Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to what is a terrific Thursday evening here for Creator Series, returning to the iRacing scene. Yes, this is the start of season number 3, and well, we have quite the season on our hands. A big shake-up, and I'm sure carnage will very much follow with the new rules and regulations that we will be abiding by. And tonight should be an exciting way to kick us off at Road America. Interesting track, technical one, can struggle for a bit of rhythm, but expect mistakes aplenty here. And with 3 car classes on the field, Indy cars, GT3 cars, and community-driven GR86s, well, I think you couldn't get a better group of ingredients for some lovely bit of chaos. We're definitely going to enjoy that this evening in your virtual commentary box for tonight. Myself, Tom Wilson, and alongside me, joining me from a field in the middle of nowhere, is John Harris. How are you doing, John?
Yeah, I join you from an area around Gap in France because I am actually spectating the Rally Monte Carlo, so I'm literally about 100 meters away from a stage for tomorrow morning. And you know what, some commentary as we go along, lovely stuff. I do love a bit of commentary, but yeah, going back to the format of the event, it's got so much going for it, hasn't it? Because the different car classes, the overtaking, not getting into too much trouble, and who doesn't love a GR86? At the end of the day, I certainly do. So I'm looking forward to this season, that's for sure.
100%. We have seen multi-class races a couple of times in the Creator Series before, but this is a different kettle of fish, I think it is fair to say. 3 cars with completely different performance specs, and it's going to be very exciting to see, especially those Indy cars try and weave their way through the moving chicanes. Let's have a quick look at the calendar, though, for the season, just to kickstart the action. First of all, like we said, Road America to get us going. Then we head to the unfathomable at times, Laguna Seca. Indy Road Course follows that. Then we go to Fuji for our first of 2 special events in the break weeks this season. That is the Cross Kart Carnage. And then we go to Okayama after that break week. Daytona Road, road number 6. Then Sebring, Talladega Oval, Miami, then Long Beach Endurance as our second super special event before we finish where it all started, realistically, in the iRacing on Creator Series, Monza historic with the chicanes embedded. John, I mean, it's a roll call of fantastic circuits that should induce the carnage and the action that we're looking for.
Yeah, so with the previous seasons, we've gone with quite simple tracks, and now we're really cranking up the ante and showing drivers, hey, we're willing to put a little bit out there in terms of spec of tracks and cars, and you've got to drive them, you've got to keep it consistent on the road. So I think there might be a few drivers maybe that take a little bit more of a consistent approach, but we'll have to wait and see what happens throughout the season. I think, again, the people leading the championship at midway will be those that can adapt to multiple conditions.
100%. And those first 4 circuits in particular, all of them very technical, very challenging. Laguna Seca in a week's time, Indy Road, and then we go to Fuji, round number 4. I mean, those are 4 very exciting circuits, including Road America tonight. And it will be a bit of a baptism of fire for a lot of drivers jumping into this with the multi-class format, and with some drivers that they won't have raced against before, John.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of new talent there, a lot of drivers I love to see. I've watched them before, and they're just so entertaining. I think we'll get the chance right now to speak to Mr. Hayden Gullis, if we can drag him in to ask him a few questions. There he is. Hopefully he can hear us. So, a new season, Hayden. What are you expecting, and how much carnage are you expecting with the multi-class system?
You've summed it up perfectly. You've taken my word from me. Carnage. This is going to be, honestly, I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I was definitely one of the people for this kind of wacky multi-class racing with Indy cars, GT3s and GR86s. I've done a few laps out on track with a few of these cars about, and some of the overtakes that we can make in the Indy car on these cars are a lot of fun. So I think regardless of whether you're having a good race or a bad race, it's just going to be fun for us IndyCar drivers to work our way through the traffic, and I'm really excited for it.
How do you approach the game plan for something like this? When you're expecting carnage, you're expecting a little bit of unpredictability. You've got some people that might be a little bit wobbly out there, especially in the slower cars. Is there any kind of pre-prep you can do to get yourself in the zone for it?
I don't think you can. Like, honestly, I don't think you can do any prep beforehand. Yeah, you can learn the track and you can kind of figure out the best way around it. So that when you do have clean air in those opening stages of the race, you can benefit from that. I don't do that because I'm too lazy. But then it's all about how you can handle the traffic, and that's always just going to be something you can never practice for. It's going to be unpredictable. You don't know what some of these community drivers are going to be like. You don't know how the GT3s are going to react. What are you going to come up against? Could you come up against a cluster of cars, all battling with each other? How good is your traffic management? Like, I don't think there's really a way that you can prepare for it other than maybe just jumping in now in the warm-up and just doing some laps and hoping that that's enough for you. But yeah, it can go anyone's way. Brendan's obviously the highlight in our class in the IndyCar, but traffic's going to come into it, and it can be anyone's game, honestly.
And in terms of the team aspect of it, how much cooperation is there? How much can you learn from other drivers to sort of gain the edge on the other teams and get yourself to the top of the standings?
So far, not a lot. I had a message from my teammate, so that he was announced the other day. He said, yo, let's link up and do some practice. And I was like, I'm going to be real with you, bro. I don't do any practice. So in terms of teamwork, I don't know. If I see him around on track, and I see our community member as well on track, and they're, fighting with someone, I'll try and maybe put off the driver that they're fighting with by being a nuisance as a driver coming through. But of course, be nice to them and not spook them through any corners. I guess that's the only way you can kind of play it with teammates here, because I'm not going to be in a position, I don't think, where I'm miles clear and I can just hold up drivers for my teammate being a higher class. So yeah, I'll try make it easy for them when I come through the traffic and make it difficult for others. But that's all I can really do, to be honest.
And just finally, any parts of this circuit, Road America in particular, that you're thinking might be a bit of a danger zone? Got your eyes on that? Okay, need to keep our wits about us. 110% there.
Let's have a look. So I'd say definitely the over the crest left-hander at, what is it, turn 13, is a difficult one to kind of find your way through. If you're one of the faster guys, you've got to either be patient or send it around the outside and hope you're lucky. There's also another over the crest left-hander, turn 6, which I think could be difficult too. And then, of course, the long sweeping right-hander of turn 9 and turn 10. Whereas for us faster cars, we've just got to carry the speed around the outside. But if there's a couple of cars fighting, it could be anyone's game. So I think those ones are going to be the difficult corners, because, of course, if you get stuck behind traffic and your rival behind you doesn't, they can gain a lot of time with momentum all the way down those straights. So those are going to be I think the tricky corners where you've got to capitalize. But there's a fine line between bravery and stupidity, and hopefully we step the right side of that today.
All right, it is quite a fine line. Thank you very much for chatting to us, Hayden. We wish you the best of luck in what might be a bit of a battle zone tonight.
Bye. Thank you.
Well, we'll move from one Creator Series legend to the next, Ryan 83. We're going to drag in now to have a bit of a chinwag with also Ryan. Hello. Similar things to what we spoke to Hayden about first of all. Can you try and sum up for us what you're expecting from the next hour or so of action?
Absolute carnage. In a good sense.
Exact same words that Hayden used. And in terms of bottles, I'm not seeing any bottles in the background. So does that mean you've turned the page compared to last season, perhaps?
I mean, this car, as I think you all know, John, from last season when we did this at the French circuit, as we would call it. It's my strongest car on iRacing, so I was very happy when it was announced that this was one of the cars. So feeling confident this season, but my only worry is a certain Brendan Hyperstar who knows this car off the back of his head, basically. So he's going to be the strong favourite. But with this mix of GT3s and GR86s, it's going to be very, very interesting for strategy.
When we look at the circuit itself, obviously there's quite a mix. You've got the long straights, you've got the heavy braking zones, some blind crests as well that you're going to have to negotiate. Is there going to be points around this hour or so race where you are just going to have to keep yourself to yourself a little bit, just try and drive in survival mode at certain points?
Yeah, I think if the broadcast is on me right now, this particular section of the circuit we're on now, up to the carousel, is going to be cautious mode, I think, for a lot of us in the IndyCar, but also in GT3 as well, because the GR86s are not the quickest cars in the world. And this example here, with going round one of them, going to be going offline, get a bit of tyre marble and gravel as well. It's going to be very tricky coming up, and yeah, I think 3/4 of the lap is going to be cautious, and then the rest of it's just straights. So we should be able to get past not just the GR86s and GT3s.
So I know you've done quite a bit of endurance racing where there's this multi-class system. That was a great save, by the way. Have you found any sort of way or tactics to practice? As I think there's more grip on the grass according to your car, which is very interesting. Your rivals will have to think about that. But is there any way that you can practice how you overtake cars, how to lose the least amount of time, I guess, in multi-class racing?
If I'm honest, the newest thing coming into this as well is, for the IndyCar especially, we've got a hybrid system to deal with as well that we have to manage, and that could be a play to try and get past cars quickly if we're in scraps. But I think, like, for this example here, it's just maybe backing off a bit early. Some of the cars are going to be, like, mid-corner is going to be interesting, as it was Sparks of all people. Yeah, it's going to be, I think it's like any multi-class race you do. If it's IMSA, if it's WEC, it's the same principle really. You just got to make your moves right tactically and just make your way past very smoothly and carry on with the rest of the lap.
Amazing. Well, Ryan, we wish you the best of luck. If we're seeing some battling like we just saw there and some sketchy moments there, I'm sure it's going to be a very exciting one. So enjoy it, and yes, hopefully you can survive what might be a bit of a battle zone tonight.
Thank you very much, and enjoy the broadcast, everyone, and take care.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Well, we're going to continue with the bevy of interviews at this stage. We're going to bring Des in now to have a bit of a chat also. We're just going to try and get a real read of how the practice is going. Des, hello, welcome to the commentary box. You've had a bit of a practice out there in the last few minutes or so. How are things feeling out there at the moment with all the different car classes that you're having to negotiate?
Oh, well, considering I just started iRacing, like, I would say 2 weeks ago, not too bad. But yeah, I mean, it's great. This is my first ever race that's going to be like multi-series, so it's definitely going to be interesting. But obviously, I will be looking in my mirrors the whole time. But yeah, it's fun. It's already going to be. I can already tell it's going to be fun. A lot of cars. How many is it? 30, 33?
Big
something like that.
Yeah, big field. I think it is 33.
So yeah, it is. I mean, sorry. I have like 10 people in my ear right now. I'm not. Oh wait, there we go. Oh, there we go. It is. Everything is going crazy right now. But
live interviews, it happens.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I'm really excited to get going and to do it, to be a part of this. Like, this is just awesome to be able to do something like with all these people that have been creating content for sim racing for so long. So I'm really excited to get going and try and I'm going for a podium. That's what I'm going for. That's my goal.
Heights. Oh, we do like the ambition. That's great to see, always. I want to ask you, perhaps, so seeing as you're adjusting now to a new simulator and also adapting to a different race format, what do you think is the most tricky part of dealing with all of that at the same time? And if do you have any tips for people at home that might want to try the same thing? Do you have any advice to give them?
So, like, I started a long time ago, like with sim racing, for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then I kind of stopped. But now I partner like with Sim Magic, Sim Labs, and everything, and they've helped me out get this whole setup going. And so just having like this, and just once I'm in the actual like practice session or quality or whatever it is like everyone says it like a broken record: turn off your line, turn off the racing line, do all of that for anyone that's starting out. Then and just practice like instantly without that, and just go slow and just build up every single practice session. That's the best way that I've like figured out for me personally, is just like practicing over and over again, and just learning your own lines, and then looking up like a track map or something like that, and then you can like adjust based off of whatever you learned, because then you learn it naturally rather than like learning it from someone else, where it's not gonna like feel natural because you're forcing that, I guess you could say. So yeah, for me, it's just learning it myself and then looking at a track map or like a YouTube video or something like that.
How about this circuit that we've got tonight? Because it can be one where finding a rhythm and finding a flow can be quite challenging just because you have got quite a mix of corners and they are spaced out at certain points around the lap. How are you finding that acclimatization process at the moment?
Oh, well, also first time racing this track as well, so it's great. I do like all the straights, just being like, obviously you need to get onto the gas pretty quick into the turns because there are so many straights. So I'm trying to get that do that and push it as far as I can without constantly getting an off track. So that's what I'm kind of running into right now. But I mean, it's a great track. Like I said, it's my first time doing it, but hopefully I'm not in the wall multiple times. Is my hope.
The ambitions then. I hope it goes well for you. I'm sure you'll have fun, and yeah, as they say, new season, new ambitions, and new possibilities to get some points. All the best to you.
Oh yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Go well, Des. Hopefully it is a successful outing for him, and we are moments away from getting into the session. John, let's have a little bit more of a chat about the circuit, because it is one where the technical challenge is pretty high. You've got to maximize your exits because there are some long straights. Thinking about coming out of turn 3, for example, that long run down into the heavy braking zone of 5. You've got to be so precise with your inputs and make sure you've got total control of what your car is doing underneath you.
Yeah, a lot of the problem also is the camber of the road. There's a lot of off-camber corners, a lot of bumpy surfaces as well, where you're not really sure you can get on throttle 100%. So there's a lot of risk versus reward. And as you said, the turns, some of them quite long, you know, as you said, turn 5, for example, where you've got to just take either a cautious line in to get the maximum exit speed, or try and get a move done on the inside, but knowing that you'll compromise the next straight. And obviously there's quite a few turns that can be taken sort of flat out, but if you get it wrong, the walls are quite close around here as well. So yeah, it's going to be so tricky.
Yeah, definitely driving on the knife edge of grip. Those Indy cars pushing it very hard. They'll be starting from the front of the pack, and I think we should have a look at how things will shape up on the grid. Super Noodle Bagel on the front row alongside Aerotech with Hayden Gullis and Reska Kyozo just behind. Love 46, and then Punju going from 5th and 6th behind them. As we move into the back half of the Indy cars, Ryan L83, we wait to see when the bottle will come this evening. He's alongside Zella Players. Brendan Hyperstar, Season 1 Creator Series iRacing champion, winner of the Indy 500, also goes from 9th with Solstice in P10. Then the last of the Dallara Indy cars is Monkey Matt, who has Chesnoid Gaming for company as the first of the GT3 wagons on row 6. Just behind them, Grand Pooh Bear. And then the 99 of Josh's corner, Stroop Waffle, teammate of Alex Gillen, who isn't here this week, goes in 15th alongside Des, who we've just spoken to, and Cephalopis alongside Suelo Almeida in 17th and 18th respectively. And then we come towards the back end of the GT3s and towards the GR86s. Stormalina very quick at the end of last season, along with Sparks, who is the Season 2 iRacing Creator Series champion. They've got Aidan Pole to deal with, though, towards the back of the GT3 runs. And then we get into the community entrance, and this is where things are spicy, everybody. 22nd, we have Ryan's entry. Then we go to Reska Kyozo's and Reese, who is with Ches and Brendan Hyperstar in 23rd and 24th. And then towards the back, Tic Tac 1 for Bear and Zeller in 25th. Themo for Stroop Waffle and Alex Gillen. Greg Houllier and then Carl McGuinness. 72 Taran alongside Design AMK1. And then we go to the very back, I believe. Yes, 2 more rows with the 2 unsafety cars, of course, going from the back. Clark with Punju, and then 32nd on the grid. Nate Stewart going from the back, hoping to avoid all the shenanigans that I think we can definitely have a look at going into turn 1. Going to definitely be a bit of an adventure for a lot of drivers out there, trying to get the balancing act right, trying to dance very precisely on the finite edge of grip. And I think, John, we are going to see carnage, as a lot of the drivers have said.
I think it's also just adapting to the rule set. You know, there's quite a bit of technicality concerning race start, for example. They've got to leave a 5-second gap between classes, so you could see some drivers maybe jumping the gun a little bit, as we've seen in real life many times. So there's a lot of technicality going on behind the scenes. The drivers have been briefed, obviously, but in the heat of the moment, when the red mist comes down, especially at the start, you know, you can never guarantee that every driver will remember. So as we get the formation lap underway, I think a lot of drivers will just be a little bit nervous, and maybe either, I think we'll see two things: tentative into turn one, but also some people going for the moves because they've raced in multi-class series before. So it will be interesting to see as we're on board with the GT3s right now.
100%. And if we do see drivers, say people in the IndyCar pack, trip over each other in the first couple of corners, that will then push them back into the GT3s and maybe even the GR86s if things do go quite as awry as they potentially could. And that will create an even more interesting dynamic on this opening lap. Super Noodle Bagel and Aerotech, the front two behind one of the unsafety cars that we have got. Super Noodle Bagel, of course, teammate to Aidan Pohl, who is at the back of the GT3 cars as we come around the final corner. And we wait the unsafety car to bid adieu as we head up the blind hill to kickstart season 3 here on iRacing. The foots are flat to the floor and we are getting going with Super Noodle Bagel leading us over the crest as we pile drive down to turn 1. Who's going to be brave on the brakes? Who's going to try and make up some places, darting out to the inside? I believe that is Hayden Gullis trying to nip at the heels of the leading duo. Aerotech also trying to get stuck in, but it's Super Noodle Bagel comfortable out of turn 1 with that big gaggle of cars following in behind him.
Yeah, that was very aggressive from Hayden, but he's kind of got boxed in on the inside there and losing traction a little bit, down to P4, I think. No, he's just managed to keep P3 there. But they'll want to slot in. They'll want to just get the race underway, build a bit of a gap to the GT3s. And already with people going over the grass a little bit, it's looking to be very, very tricky. You can see just breaking down there. Super Noodle Bagel just trying to bed himself in, just losing on the race start there. But, you know, it's all to play for. As we've already got damage at the back. I think that's Love 46 with a front wing that's looking far from optimal.
Yeah, Rescue struggling as well up through turn 7, so drivers already trying and struggling to find the limits of this circuit. Hayden Gullis still battling away with Rescue for 3rd and 4th respectively. It's a 113 car that sticks it down the inside, and Hayden's going to have to be careful here through turns 9 and 10. The carousel, keep the throttle pinned for as long as you dare before you lift off. Try and get the optimal line to run out of 10 up towards turn 11. Hayden Gullis has managed to pick the pocket of Rescue.
Yeah, Aerotech being very aggressive on the back of Super Noodle Bagel as well. You can see Hayden's got the experience from the F1 series where he can just park the car in the right place and where he can't overtake. Oh my days. Rescue very aggressive to the inside. It's going to work out, but can Hayden get it on the power? No. Too much dirt on that offline off the curb, and that is a position lost. And Rescue looking very racy at the start here. Zella behind Hayden Gullis as well, looking for the move, but not shaping up for the moment as they're about to complete lap 1 as well. Meanwhile, GT3 class Chesnoid Gaming looks to have got a huge storming lead as Suelio is getting attacked by Grand Poubert as well, but Grand Poubert just didn't get the drive off the corner, did he?
Yeah, Almeida getting it from all angles there. Grand Poubert Sparks battling through nicely as well, up into 4th in the GT3 class, just getting ahead of Des and Josh's corner, who's lost a couple of places. Still Aerotech now leading the way ahead of Super Noodle Bagel, who I think's had a bit of a whoopsie. You can see the 55 tumbling through the field there in the leading IndyCar group, and I think there might have been a little bit of contact because Hayden Gullis is now leading the way ahead of Rescue and Zayla, so definitely something gone on there in the cause we haven't seen. And yes, that is significant damage to both of the two leading contenders.
Yeah, something's happened. The Aerotech's got suspension damage. It looks like the car will not stay in a straight line. Super Noodle Bagel, you can see the front wing, half of it missing. And Love 46 in the pits repairing that damage. So let's see. So Aerotech on the defensive. Super Noodle Bagel will probably go for a move at some point. Oh, onto the grass. Both left tyres on the grass. Tried to hit the brakes, locked up and straight into the back of Aerotech. And you can see the damage to both cars there. Aerotech already crabbing in the gravel track. How unfortunate, but it does happen. Still got to replay different angle, I think this is. And yeah, you can see just the grass on the tyre there. Nothing really could do. Just a driver mistake there, trying to get the best exit possible. But that's happened. What happens when it goes wrong, really.
100%, and now going to get spat out of the pits, probably in a mix of either GT3 or GR86 cars. Ryan at 83 has managed to emerge from this in the lead, ahead of Hayden Gullis, who has Punju for company. Rescue did manage to jump all three of them to get into the lead when we saw that tete-a-tete between Super Noodle Bagel and Aerotech, but has dropped back to the tune of 3 seconds, now under significant pressure from Brendan Hyperstar, Ryan at 83, from Hayden Gullis, from Punju. We jump in to the GR86s, following quite literally line astern there. We could be 3 wide, maybe even 4 wide if we're brave enough. This is where things can get spicy. Slower cars gives more opportunity for some really dicey battles.
Well, to quote the Cars movie, bump drafting, is that legal? They're definitely using the rule book to their advantage right now. So over the curb goes Snowbranch, as if I read that name correctly, but that was a good recovery. However, it's looking like that GR86 is a mean car to get around this track. They're not very good on the bumps, it seems, as I think they'll just have to play the long game with this one. Wanted to point out, people have 4 fast repairs for this race, so if they do get a bit of damage, it's not the end of the race. Oh, that's a big late braking move. Can you believe it? Up the inside. But I think that will be a little bit contested by the drivers, and they've given the position back, but still argy-bargy in the midfield here, as they are just trying to be a little bit too aggressive, our community entrants here. They're trying to make their mark, but sometimes maybe it's a little bit too early in the race to do so.
This is what happens when you let them off the leash. Battling very, very hard. Things just fanning out a little bit with our leading trio, Ryan 83, just half a second ahead of Hayden Gillis, but Punju falling back ever so slightly to the tune of 1.5 seconds. Then Reska Kyoza, who continues to leak time hand over fist to the leading group of 3. Chesnoid Gaming battling away. Here's Aidan Pole as well, trying to move towards the very front of the GT3 class. Started at the back. Complete role reversal here on lap 3, and Aidan Pole, the 12 car, leading very nicely. His teammate Super Noodle Bagel may have got embroiled in a bit of a battle, a bit of a scrape and skirmish in the opening couple of laps, but it is Aidan Pole running nicely here up in the lead of the second class.
Frank Hubert struggling there in the background in that BMW, just getting a load of understeer. But Aidan Pole was confident in this Corvette. Aidan Pole really thought that he could get the move on the other drivers, and it's looking like that as he takes the lead. So Almeida just looking to try and keep the gap at the moment. It can be advantageous to keep P2 to just get the pressure off. Hello here, Ryan L83 racing with Hayden. Hayden goes to the inside. It's a clean move, and I think Ryan just let that one go. He recognised that Hayden got the run on the inside. But these two are pulling away from Punjo and P3, who himself is pulling away from Reska Kyoso. The field is splitting apart for the moment.
First car, they've had to try and work their way through. Definitely coming up to some stragglers now in the GR86 class, and this is where we're going to see what the drivers are truly made of. Solstice all over the back of Reska Kyoso, who's really fallen away since that really promising start. Like you said, so punchy in the opening couple of laps, especially when dicing with Hayden Gillis. Got to be careful there. Heavy braking zone down into turn 5. Straight line braking critical, and then you go over this blind crest. Braking, very, very difficult. Back end of the car, especially in these Indy cars, wants to step out on you at every single possible moment. But both of them, and all of our Indy drivers, you have to say, managing with those limitations, let's say, very, very nicely at this stage.
Solstice and Reska Kyoso putting wheels on the grass there, and I think that might be the key to the pace difference at the moment, because some drivers have not had an experience of a snap yet or a driver error, and once that mistake happens on a track like this with only grass and barriers, you really have to back off and regain confidence. Ryan already back onto the back of Hayden Gillis. Will he go for it? Looks like he will. Hayden braking early, but Ryan just steaming it up the inside with supreme confidence, and through he goes. Clean move. Just want to point out as well that although some of our drivers might be pro in the multi-class series over multiple simulators, multiple types of events, the closing speed in this race is like nothing they've seen, because this is IndyCar versus GT3, not Hypercar. They're slightly faster in a straight line as well, and definitely round the corners, and the GR86 is even slower, so the closing speeds, even for somebody used to it, are going to be mega and very difficult to deal with.
100% fastest lap of the race as well for Ryan 83, himself and Hayden both using the red striped alternate tyres very, very nicely indeed. We return to our GR86 gaggle of cars as we go through 13 and up to 14 to complete the lap. Still McGuinness leading the way, part of Team Pole and Super Noodle Bagel, so that's 2 out of 3 cars doing nicely. The only problem is Super Noodle Bagel buried in the pack. There we go with one of the Indy cars flying past. Not 100% sure who it was. I think it might have been Aerotech, and now we'll see Super Noodle Bagel trying to pile through as well.
That was terrifying, even watching from spectator camera, just the closing speed. I mean, if you go for a move, there's a chance that the Indy cars won't be able to get out of the way in time, because literally they will spot it just in a distance, and then they're there already closing in.
Oh, car in the wall there, through turn number 1, backed into the wall. I'm not sure who it was. I think it's Reska Kyoso, and is tumbling to the back. The 113 car take the one off. Been very unlucky so far, and for what was a very promising first 50% of this 5 laps so far, ever since then things have gone downhill quite dramatically, and you'd imagine with the way that car had backed into the wall, that's going to be significant damage to the rear end.
I wonder if they've just lost it coming out of the pits. Yeah, the car was very oversteery, so let's see what happens. Probably just losing it on cold tyres. Yeah, quite literally. Just a snap of oversteer and into the barrier. And, oh, they've got it stopped before the barrier, so it shouldn't be too bad if they rejoin correctly. Let's see, it looks like it is a clean rejoin. They're doing things sensibly, that's very good to see. And that gravel on the tyres, though, is going to take a while to move off. The problem is now they've got to overtake all of those 86s as well. So, yeah, it's not going to be a good time. Let's see Aerotech as well doing an overtake here, I think. Just steaming it down the inside. Lovely stuff, but getting over the curb. And, whoa, a huge snap. And that is a broken rear wing, possibly. Not quite sure. Maybe just a little bit of damage. But, yeah, it's yeah, not ideal. Not ideal to have that happen, that's for sure.
Yeah, it looked like the rear wing fell off just over the bump there, and certainly looking very unstable. There was almost a very lazy spin there going through the hairpin of turn number 5. Active aero indeed, but Rescue now with a hell of a lot of catching up to do. Currently running 9th out of the 10 Indy cars that we've got. No, 9 out of 11, sorry, I should say, with Aerotech towards the back after a couple of excursions out there. The gravel been brought back onto the circuit as well as we go uphill through turn 6 and up towards 7. Brendan Hyperstar fastest lap of the race. Still only down in P6 of the Indy class, but work his way through fairly nice, but is about 35 seconds.
Oh, collision!
Ryan Haley 3.
Yeah, that was Ryan, just, I think, the GT3 car, not sure who it was, maybe Chesnoid, but I may be wrong with that, but just turned in. Ryan was there. Oh, Hayden's off the track as well. What is going on? Everybody getting distracted, I think. That can happen. And through, I think, is that Punju into the lead? It is. Punju takes the lead of the race for the moment.
Well, everything's just presented itself to him. His two main contenders for the lead, both making mistakes within the space of a couple of corners. Here comes Ryan sending it down the inside of Ches. He turns in. I don't think he realised Ryan was there. Takes himself and the race leader of the Indy class out of contention. Then Hayden just struggling. You see the understeer here in the second part of the carousel, just wandering into the grass and then the gravel. Does a good job to keep it pointing in the right direction, but does relinquish the lead that he just fairly fortuitously inherited now to Punju.
I think what happened with the GT3 there is it got a wheel on the outside onto the grass, and that rotated him into Ryan, who was just a passenger there at that point. So very unfortunate. I think it's just a case of the GT3s trying to stay out of the way, but in doing so they put themselves in danger of making a mistake and then make themselves a danger to the passing Indy cars as well. I just want to remind, it's for the faster car to do the safe overtake. So the GT3 is technically allowed to turn in and take the racing line. So there's a bit of a grey area in the closing speed as we see a lot of pit stops now getting underway, as they will have to stop for tyres and indeed for fuel, and for quite a few drivers for repairing damage as well, as you see Ryan gets a new front wing now.
100%. Brendan Hyperstar came in a little bit earlier and it's been absolutely rapid since finding some clean air. Do not be surprised if we see Brendan Hyperstar right at the sharp end of this field after that earlier stop. The GR86s continue to tussle away. Down the inside we go. You could just see in the background there, I think that was one of the GT3s making their way through, and it was. And this is where you just got to be careful. You've got to keep your wits about you, because this will make or break your race.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of dirt on track as well, so they've got to change their racing line a bit. You can see on the entry and the exit of Carousel, there's a lot of gravel, so you need to take a tighter line into there. And that means for the cars that are faster, overtaking round the outside or taking the wide line like Hayden tried is not possible anymore, perhaps at the same speed, because you will just wash out and go into the gravel trap and simultaneously bring more gravel back onto the road. So it's really, really tricky at the moment, as we see Grand Boubert just carving through the pack of GR86s at the moment. But I must admit that all of these cars looking super on the edge and super oversteer. I think just with the infield section, the tyres are maybe getting a little bit too hot, and so everybody's trying to push the limit. And you can see that Monkey Matt is just trying so definitely to close in at the moment, but with the dirty air as well throughout this carousel, you can see they're just waiting to get on throttle. It's not happening. The car's washing out a little bit and they lose, as both drivers getting on the gravel there and losing the car nearly. That was close. I think that was Reska Kyoso in front, and that was nearly another spin for Reska Kyoso.
That's going to make a part of the circuit it's already challenging, with a load of rubbish and dirt on there, even more difficult to deal with. Both of them flat through the kink of turn 11. Into Canada corner we go, still with Reska Kyoso putting a little bit more distance between themselves and Monkey Matt. The 107 car still trying to apply the blowtorch to the 113, who has had a couple of adventures we know so far, Reska Kyoso, and they're in a little bit of no man's land really. 3 seconds to Solstice in front, and then 16 seconds, more than that, 18 seconds now, back to Zeller in position number 8.
Yeah, a lot of drivers having problems with that turn 5 on the infield, really. They're trying to maximise the slow turns, and they're really just getting wheels on the grass and all of that. As I think, again, Reska nearly running into a GT3 car there. I think that's Chesnoid. So he's back out on track after the contact with Ryan. But, yeah, I think Chesnoid may be a little bit more tentative now after what has happened in this race. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers bed themselves in. But we're seeing gaps now. Brendan Hyperstar at the front, for example, 1.5 seconds to Punju and then 2.8 to Hayden. So drivers are creating their own race, but this has become a strategic one where pit stops and not getting into contact or damage will make their mark on the race now. And even if you have a small mistake, that's 5-10 seconds that you lose, so things can turn on their head in an instant if you just get yourself on the wrong line or you start battling with someone.
100%. And the strategic game is going to be key. Brendan Hyperstar with that early stop, getting himself some nice track position ahead of Punju, ahead of Hayden goes with Ryan 83. Even after that bit of a tete-a-tete between himself and Chesler, still very much in the ballpark here, only 7 seconds off the lead in class with a big gap to Solstice behind. I think it is going to be this 4 you would expect battling Hyperstar, Punju, Gullis and Ryan 83 dicing it out as he passes the Mercedes, the GT3 coming out of the final corner, and Brendan Hyperstar does for the second time make his way into the pit lane.
Yeah, he's going for the aggressive strategy on fuel, trying to just get track position, get the clean air and just punch a hole where he can create a gap. But honestly, that might just put him at a little bit of a risk if there's an unsafety car or any problem that happens out on track as Punju retakes the lead of this race. And even though Hayden has made a mistake, he's still in the mix here as we've got a GR86 off the road there. I think maybe just getting out of the way to be fair. But all of this cannot be very good for Punju as it's quite distracting, I can imagine. And the pressure of leading the race as well.
100%. Aidan Poles lost a hell of a lot of time, by the way, to the tune of nearly 3.5 seconds. Was over 5 clear at the front of the GT3 cars. That has been absolutely slashed as through goes Monkey Matt there. Got to be so careful as the GR86 is battling on the run down into turn number 1, just threading the eye of the needle to perfection, as the one I said has slipped past the 3 of them.
Yeah, this is going to absolutely boil over, I think, as we've got a battle as we see for the lead and as the IndyCars pass. I think that's Brendan Hyperstar. This is not going to end well, I think. It looks like Graveholder gets to the inside. No, it isn't. It's Kyle to the inside. And that is a super clean pass as they're going to have to sort of condense and compress to allow the faster cars to pass. But they're still going side by side. Nobody wants to relinquish the lead of this race. And it's oh so important because you can't just get the switchback like in a high downforce car. You have to use the mechanical grip. And that means these cars can go side by side for laps if they want to. And that's exactly what we're seeing. Super clean driving, I must say.
McGuinness now potentially getting the cold shoulder on the outside. Through goes Hubler up into the lead of the GR86 class, but still not going to let this one go. Around the outside, you can see they're just appearing into view, one of the Indy cars, as these three continue to tussle and hopefully not tangle, as it is now McGuinness down into second in class, but still very much under the microscope here because look on the grass, I think there, the car in third. Got to be so precise here as we go through the kink. Try and take it as flat as you like. Maybe the smallest of opportunities. Yes, it is McGuinness carrying more speed around the outside. And once again, side by side, McGuinness versus Hoover as we head down to Canada corner. Does the 308, keep it pinned to the inside. Brave under brakes. Yes, is the answer. Stewart just watching and waiting behind them. Off the circuit goes McGuinness in his attempts to get through up the hill into 13. We flow now. I think surely going to have to back out of this eventually. And for the time being, it is Kyle McGuinness that continues to lead this class. We would imagine this is going to flip-flop almost contact as we go into the final corner.
Yeah, I think Stewart there was just waiting to see whether anything would happen. I think quite disappointed that nothing did happen as we've got a battle here. I think that's Reska Kyoso fighting and going alongside with, is that Love 86?
Solstice.
Solstice, yes it is indeed. My apologies, the car liveries look quite similar. And Reska is still on that gravel. I mean, I think they're just taking too many risks here to just try and push the limits, and it means that they can never get into a rhythm. No way, not around the outside, surely not. They are going all the way around the outside. I cannot quite believe it. They've kept it. All around the outside goes Reska Kyoso. What a just tantalizing move. I did not expect that to end well, but that is just credit to the amount of driving capabilities we're seeing, as that's an Audi off the road and mashing the DRS sign as they go past.
splattering through the polystyrene board as Aerotech in the Indy class is into the pits once again. But that was brave, but you have to say Reska Kyosto had one hell of a run coming out of turn 8 and just could absolutely sail around the outside of Solstice with no real risk involved, to be fair, with the overspeed that they picked up the 113 to get back up into the top 4 as wide goes Ancephalosis, dipping a couple of wheels into the gravel, and Josh's corner's going to lap that one up, say thank you very much. Got to be careful because I think that's Monkey Matt trying to work his way through the GT3 class as well. Got past the Mustang. Following through also is the 14 of Zayla in the Williams liveried IndyCar. And this is going to be difficult coming out of the final corner. Neither of them ducking into the pits as we go over the blind crest. This is the worst possible place, apart from maybe turn 6, where you don't want to see a car sideways, as Ryan 3, by the way, has just taken second place off the hands of Hayden Gullis. But it is still Monkey Matt ahead of Zeta, although they're very, very close on the run down into turn 1.
Oh, I think that is one of them off the track as well. So I think that's Zella off the track. Yeah, it is indeed Zella off the track, just braking a little bit too late, I think, getting onto the gravel on the outside, so that has broken up that fight, sadly. But you can see Monkey Matt was jamming on the brakes with the GT3s, just thinking, I do not want to get involved in contact. And I think just Zella's tried to go for the move there, and it just hasn't worked out for the moment. So that's, again, a time loss of about 5 seconds. And it does add up at the end of the day. Ryan is closing in on Punju, by the way. The time is coming down. And as I say that, I think Ryan's actually made a little bit of a mistake. I think I've commentators cursed someone once again for this season, and it won't be the last time.
Yes, it was a bit of a classic bottle, to be fair. If we go through in the Indy class, leading the way is currently Punju, ahead of Ryan 83, who is catching, was just over a second faster on the previous lap. And then it's Hayden Gullis just lurking in third place, just 3.2 seconds separating the top 3 in that class. And we head down to the GT3s. Well, hold that thought, because that is a Mustang spinning it, looping it around almost on the exit of turn number 8, just about kept it out of the barriers. But for Strootwaffle, that was a bit of a brown pants moment there as we head up towards the carousel. Those rear tyres definitely going to be inflamed coming through. Got to be careful as well, because I think that's Reska Kyoso that's just caught the back also and does fly through. But in the GT3 class, Aidan Pohl has had pretty much everything his own way. Started at the back of it, now over 5 seconds clear of Suelo Almeida, who I think has made a bit of a mistake there. You can see the time falling away very, very quickly from 5 seconds comfortably over 6 seconds, with Sparks, the reigning Creator Series champion in Season 2 of the iRacing scene, currently holding third, albeit 17 seconds off the back of Aidan Pohl.
It looks like Aidan Pohl is lapping 2 seconds faster than anybody in the GT3 class, so this is really, really tricky. Maybe we can go through the creator sort of tag-alongs, let's say. I've forgotten the exact terminology that we're meant to use for it. But there we go. Community entries, there we go.
McGuinness still getting stuck in with Hubler, and this time it is Hubler that comes through to take the lead of the GR83, the GR86 class, I should say. The party crashers, I think, is the funniest way to put it, that Gareth Arrow has just told us in our own. These two have been going at it hammer and tong. Into the gravel again we go, this time with Hubler, but it's actually McGuinness under pressure, because it's Branch, I think, coming up the inside into the first part of the carousel. Good run in the second part through 10 for McGuinness, will hold him in second place for the time being. But these guys, given an opportunity, very much getting stuck in with each other.
Well, talking about tag-alongs, they are definitely going toe and to the nail, really, for this first places off the road once again. Can they keep it? Yes, they can. Hubler absolutely demonstrating. Oh, who is that? Is that, I think that's Brendan Hyperstar that's just carved his way through the 86s there. Incredible stuff. What a presence of mind you have to make that move and make it stick. Incredible. But these guys are just getting absolutely mesmerizing racing, to be fair, with these cars, and it demonstrates how the mechanical grip cars can go side by side and just absolutely dance and make sure that the move is never over. And yeah, I must say, this is probably one of the best additions we've had. Having those community entries is a really, really nice addition.
100%. Been very, very exciting, hasn't it? As there is Punja, I think, coming out just behind his teammates. So there's going to have to be some team play dynamics going on there. And yes, Punju does dive down the inside and get ahead of the GT3 car. It puts Brendan Hyperstar back into the lead by just under 8 seconds ahead of Punju. But Brendan Hyperstar came into the pits for their second stop quite a while ago. 4 laps already done on this stint compared to Punju, compared to Ryan, compared to Hayden, who are just coming through the pits or coming out of the pits now. And then this secondary chasing group behind, Zayla and Love 46, who have been battling very, very hard, along with Monkey Matt, who's had a few dicey skirmishes and scrapes with a couple of the GR86 cars out there also in pit road. Aidan Pohl still over 6 seconds, nearly 7 seconds clear of Almeida, with Sparks hovering around 11 seconds behind the driver, the number 9 car in second in class. And then that titanic tussle still continuing to rage on between the GR86s, with McGuinness back in the lead. Clark up into second place. Well, scratch that now into the lead. I think McGuinness has made a bit of a mistake.
Certainly looks like it. The field's just been broken up a little bit at the moment. But I'm noticing as well, the IndyCars are having a little bit of problems as well. Storm Molina looking to go up the inside, but leaving a lot of room on the outside. Yeah, definitely a good move though, and up one position. But I must say, the IndyCar is struggling for pace or for consistency, because the times are a bit all over the place for everybody, including Brendan Hyperstar. And I think that's to do with the traffic as well, but there's a lot of gravel on the track right now. And so getting the power down in such a high-powered car that relies on sort of consistent, sustainable grip is going to be more and more challenging as we go along. And you can see there in the entry to the carousel, it's basically more like Rally Monte Carlo at the moment, I'll be honest.
Just a wash of gravel, a river of gravel all the way across. This is Hayden Gullis, who I think has made a mistake through said carousel. Already been off the road once here, and again finding that gravel. Does he keep it out of the wall, slam the anchors on enough? Just about keeps it pointing in the right direction, but that's going to bring even more gravel, you can see there, back onto the circuit in the second part of the carousel. McGuinness, I think that is, going through off the road, taking the place on the grass is Reska Kyozo, and these two are going to get intertwined once again. They were battling very, very hard on the opening lap. I think we're going to continue that scrap now.
Yeah, that's just insane amount of confidence to just go through, even though there's gravel. Reska Kyoso keeping the pace and keeping it just pinned, I think, 100%. And I think Hayden now will want to get back past Pronto. But whether it'll be possible, he's got the sunglasses on. I mean, he's just chilling in this race, to be fair. He doesn't need to follow the racing line. The gravel trap is equally as fast if you believe it to be so. And I think also a lot of our creators just getting experimental with the curbs. And again, it's catching them out from time to time. Oh, Reska Kyoso really, really wide, getting a snap of oversteer. Hayden will try and get alongside, but no, the door is slammed firmly shut at the moment. And there you can see grass on the tyres as we're just approaching the section where everybody's struggling with, I think, just trying to put some pressure on. But Reska Kyoso at the moment stands firm.
100% got the Elton John glasses on there. Does Hayden Gullis. Was almost a rocket man down the inside into turn 8, but didn't fancy it, sending it under braking. Has been off the road a couple of times so far, and will just be a little bit more tentative now, but much, much closer through the kink, carrying so much more speed. Reska Kyozo, a little bit wild there on the outside. That will definitely present an opportunity for Hayden Gullis to file through down into Canada corner. Has the high road on the inside. Does Reska Kyozo try and fight it out around the outside? Not too much space, got to keep it out of the gravel. Just dips the wheel into the grass, still hanging it up the inside into 13. That would have been brave. It's actually Reska Kyozo carrying too much speed and almost goes off the circuit. You can see the bumps and the oscillations as she was carrying so much speed, just trying to keep a handle on that car. But Hayden Gullis does work his way through and back up into the top 4.
They are fighting as if they are on the last lap of the race. This is absolutely mesmerising. Oh no, Reska Kyoso to the inside once again. As I think Gareth is trying to tell us something as well in the production booth. We're going to have to pause that for the moment as Hayden Gullis keeps it round the outside. That is a brave move, trying to shut the door, but Reska Kyoso is having nothing of it. They've both left each other a load of room, very respectful racing, but that means they are also side by side down to the crucial turn 5. It's going to be a late downhill braking. Who's going to be the last of the late gaspers on the brakes? Hayden getting some grass on the tyres. I think that means he'll have to just back out of it, and Reska Kyoso takes the position once again.
Oh, this could be careful though. Look at this, Stroopwafel in front of them. Up the blind crest we go as these IndyCars, the back end wants to try and overtake the front as you go through that off-camber corner. Both of them, along with Stroopwafel, I should say, managing to negotiate it very well as Hayden, very wild, coming out of turn 7. They're pushing incredibly hard as we come up towards the carousel. Before we get there is Reska Kyozo and Stroopwafel in the background. Both synchronised trips into the gravel. And I think that is definitely overtake 1 and done for Hayden Gullis. Handed it on a plate as Brendan Hyperstar has been into the pits again. So that now is the battle for 3rd and 4th. A Stroopwafel there also take a trip off the road. And I think we have for the first time the unsafety car being deployed. And that gives us an opportunity, one, to touch base on where things are, but, and more crucially, to see how a restart will work, as everybody can converge on each other, get back together, and then we start the madness all over again.
Yeah, Scotty Design spilling Physic-Pop on track is the explanation given, and that is really just devastating for the race because you pick up all the gravel on your tyres and sticky tyres, you just can't get it off. So yeah, definitely needing the box for tyres. There we go. All of the narrative, the script is definitely coming together on this one. But the unsafety car, that is your safety is none of our concern is definitely the message for that one, as that hypercar is a little bit how would I say, intimidating for every single car on track, I think, as it's just also momentarily put its cloak on of invisibility, as I think cars are just unlapping themselves as well to get back into the mix of things.
100%. And if we know anything about the unsafety car, especially from last season, you've got to be careful. You've got to have your wits about you because there can be some interesting games going on, trying to just keep it out of everybody's way. But it will be Punju, I think, that will maintain the lead in the IndyCar class ahead of Ryan 83. Aidan Poll's near 20-second advantage over Almeida will get wiped out. That'll bring Sparks back into the equation as well. And we'll also see all the GR86s, of course, converge on each other also. But more importantly, continue that titanic battle that they had previously, where we saw McGuinness and Hubler, I should say, getting stuck in. Stewart currently leading the way for the GR86s, the community entries, or as we called them before, the party crashers, the gate crashers, coming in almost uninvited and adding to the chaos, which is absolutely what we love to see.
I've been told they're cannon fodder, which is not my words for it, but I will not quote who said that, but there you go. There's different sentiments, different sentiments along the commentary box and production booth. Let's put it that way. But it is fair to say that they are in the line of fire, that's for sure, and they've been doing quite well to keep themselves out of the line of fire. And yeah, this is going to add to the chaos, however, as they've got to unlap themselves. And how many drivers are not going to be aware of that? We have yet to wait and see. But it's also a case to reset the strategy as well, because you can come into the pits, you can get fuel, you can get tyres, you can sort of reset mentally if you've been having a tough time, like the battle that we've seen between Bresca Kyoso and Hayden Gullis. So there's a lot of information going on, and as you approach the halfway point, you kind of want a point to reset and just go, okay, first half of the race, we'll forget about it, or first half of the race has gone well, let's try and build on that, or let's try and reset and go again and try and win this thing.
Yeah, barely at half distance, to be honest. If we look at the strategy for the IndyCars in particular, the majority, like you would have expected, boxing under that unsafety car. Solstice has stayed out, though, 3 laps completed on that stint, and Aerotech at the back has also stayed out, 6 laps run on their stint so far. But what we are going to do, as we see Strootwaffle looping it round there under the unsafety car coming out of, I think that's the final corner, in that beautiful livery, I think, multi-green Mustang. We are going to bring in the leader of the IndyCar class. Punju jumps into the commentary box. I imagine, Punju, this has been quite the stressful occasion so far.
I would say yes, but then I just saw Strootwaffle spin under safety car, so the stress is gone. It's just comedy now.
How difficult has it been to keep your head on with all of the different car speeds and the stuff happening? We've seen so many mistakes, I couldn't possibly list them at this point. So where's your mind space at the moment?
It's been so fun. I mean, the craziness is part of the joy, right? The joys of doing, unlapping with safety cars right here with different classes is always fun. Strootwaffle's gone off again.
Oh, my.
So, yeah. This is hilarious. This is going about exactly as I was hoping it was going to go, so this is great.
There's picking up a freebie there. What's the strategy for the second half of the race? It feels surprising to say we're only just reaching half distance now. How do you approach the second half? You've got Ryan just behind you. Brendan Hyperstar now buried in the pack of these IndyCars. How do you approach at least the restart in the short term?
I mean, just try my best to survive. Best I can do. I mean, there's really no other strategy beyond just live. We're doing the best we can. And I really didn't expect to be this far up, if I'm going to be honest with you, so I'm kind of getting a bit of a nosebleed, so I'm just trying to chillax and have fun and hopefully not let the nerves get to me.
Well, you can't go many positions higher than what you're at currently at the moment. So is it a case of just trying to park the bus, and how easy is it to sort of defend around here? Because we've seen a lot of aggressive moves, but how can you go about defending?
I don't know if it's parking the bus. It is more so just if Ryan gets me, he gets me, I think. I need to just, be consistent. I'm seeing a lot of people make like little mistakes here and there and stuff like that. It's pretty easy to make a mistake in this IndyCar, especially with the more recent tires. So, if I just play like a little bit more of a consistency game, I think I might be able to just naturally hold a good position. So, yeah, that's the goal.
Well, we'll see how it goes. Punji, thank you for chatting with us, and we wish you the best of luck, especially when you catch up to those GR86s that have pretty much been 5 wide for the entirety of the first 17 laps.
It's been wild. Thanks, guys.
That is going to be very, very interesting to see indeed. We wait as I think everybody has managed to get themselves back ahead of the unsafety car, and we'll be forming up at the back of the Snake, with Punji, of course, leading the way. One thing we do need to note is that Super Noodle Bagel, who did start from pole position, we see another one of the GT3s fly on through, and now they're starting to catch up to the back of the pack with Aiden Pole. Super Noodle Bagel, starting from pole position, is out of this race. We tied a few laps ago, which means that, the dream duo that were running very, very nicely, Aiden Pole and Super Noodle Bagel, one at the front of the GT3 class, and one of them not reaching the checkered flag of the Indy class.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because Super Noodle Bagel did have the pace as well. So, again, the little mistakes happening, and around a track like this, it's not uncommon, to be fair. You can see the technicality of the track. We've had many, many drivers that have just put a wheel on the grass and spun it round, as Punju referenced, a little mistake here and there. So it's a case of just keeping your head, but some drivers, have just got into the barriers or into battles where they haven't come out of, and it's going to be definitely a long race still for the GR86s, but I still think they're the highlight at the moment, because they every time we've switched the camera to them or we've seen a car passing them, they are either 2 wide or 3 wide. It just never stops.
100%. Hubler currently winning that little race for he's part of Swello and Hayden Gullis' squadron. Then it's Nate Stewart, part of the Aerotech Storm Molina duo, and then Carl McGuinness, who is part of that Super Noodle Bagel Aiden Pole scrap and skirmish and team, with one of them at the front of the GD3 class and one of them already taking that early shower. Around the final corners, we wait still, backing the pack up. You can see the gaps already starting to form as we wait for the GT3s diving into the pits there. I'm trying to work out who that was towards the back of the IndyCar pack. I believe it might have been Love 46 bidding adieu and jumping into pit road.
Yeah, looks like it. And they're probably just going for a fresh set of tyres, more fuel, just to get the strategy advantage. They were toward the back of the pack anyway, so probably just deciding to go right to the back and try and see if they can outpace or just out-survive some of the others in the pack. Because I think one of the most consistent people at the moment is Ryan L83. He hasn't seemed to have got himself into too many contacts of his own doing. So there's quite a different strategy going on between some drivers that are trying to just go absolutely flat out and see if it sticks, and then other drivers just playing the long game. I have no idea how this race is going to pan out, and especially in that GT3 field, can anybody catch the pace of Aiden Pole at the moment? Looking at the pace that there's been, the average doesn't look like it at the moment, but the great reset that we're having here makes it that anything's possible.
Reese at the back of the GR86 class in the McLaren liveried car, just moving back through everybody, sending it down the inside of a couple of Indy cars, maybe catch them slightly unawares, as one Jorik van Geffen would love to see, as he did in the IndyCar, remember as well, trying to unlap himself as close as he possibly could get to the runners and riders towards the sharp end. If we just have a quick run down, Punji leading the way ahead of Ryan L83, then Solstice, Hayden Gullis and Reski Kyozo, the top 5 for the Indy class. Brendan Hyperstar just outside of that, the safety car, the unsafety car, coming at a bad time for him with the way that his strategy was shaping up. Then Zale and Monkey Matt Aerotech and Love 46, who we've just seen make a cheap stop under that unsafety car. GT3 class, Aiden Pole's been head and shoulders above everybody else. His fastest lap comfortably over a second quicker than anybody else that is part of that squadron. Sulio Almeida in second ahead of Sparks, then Storm Molina and Gran Pube, who's been quite quiet so far. Josh's Corner and Cephalosis. Stroop Waffle, who's had a few adventures under the unsafety car. Dez and then I think it is Ches in P10 at the back of the GT3 class. And then in the GR86 is Nate Stewart leading the way ahead of Hubler, McGuinness, Clark and Design AMK, Themo Tic Tac, Snall, Brunch, Osoy, 72 Tarrant and Reese, who we've just seen there unlapping themselves on the Indy cars. Shouldn't be too far from a restart either. We'll get to see the game plan that both Punju and Ryan have got at this restart.
Reese fastest on track on pure pace alone in the GR86 there, and definitely I think the IndyCars have a new contender for the race victory for sure. But that must be so satisfying, just breezing past all of the other competitors saying, yep, I'm getting my lap back, and I'm also having a lot more pace than you lot at the moment. So I think everybody may be struggling for tyre temperatures as well, because you've got to remember the tyres probably getting very warm around here, but conversely, if you have no grip at the restart, you arrive at turn 1, braking over a crest effectively, or slight crest off camber, and that means you can just spin out as well. So drivers have got to keep the tyres up to temperature and just make sure that everything is working properly, because at a race restart, the best place to gain positions, and you can gain multiple at a time if you're lucky, so you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're dropping 2, 3, 4, 5 positions because you haven't been keeping an eye on all of the temperatures in the car.
Well, when you're dancing on the knife edge of grip, when you've been going at this sedated pace for some time, those tyres are definitely going to be quite icy cool, but it is Punju that will lead us away. Remember the expression though, unsafety cars breed unsafety cars. And I would not be at all surprised to see it making another appearance in the second half of this enthralling race, the multi-class race for the first time officially here in the iRacing Creator Series scene. Punji leading the way in the IndyCars, Aidan Pole leading the way in the GT3s. Those respective classes getting prepared to pin the throttles, stamp down the right foot onto the loud pedal and bolt it up towards the massive crest, the incline, up to the start-finish line, and then back down the hill into the tricky turn 1. We'll wait to see what Punji, remember, runner-up last season in the iRacing Creator Series Championship, had an outside title chance to steal it away from Sparks in the finale, leading the way here. And I believe the unsafety car, as is commonplace and as is tradition, has pitched it into the barrier and is now shattered into a million pieces somewhere. So we might pick that up at some point, but out of the final corner we go with Punju. And we are getting ready to rock with Punju leading Ryan 83. Solstice, remember, didn't box under the unsafety car, could be under the cosh in the early stages of this stint, with Hayden Gullis, Reska Kyoso, and crucially Brendan Hyperstar for close company down into the first braking zone. How cool are the brake? Can you try and slam the anchors on, get the car stopped to your desires? Slightly wide there is Solstice, maybe an opportunity for Hayden. Down into turn 3, had a think about it to the inside, had a look and a little listen to see what the 27 car was doing. Behind them though in the GT3s, battling right at the back of it is Sparks, who is in third behind Aidan Pole, but trying to make the most of it. Down the inside we go into turn 1, or around the outside, sorry, to try and nab second place away from Sulia Almeida, slightly late on the brakes, and that will be Almeida still holding on to second in class just for the time being, with Aidan Pole almost a second clear already.
Yeah, Almeida just knew that there was... Oh, so we've got lead change as well. Ryan round the outside. Punju not being able to defend, but he'll have the outside. Just can't get the grip in the tyres at the moment, it looks like. Ryan on, I think, is what the harder compound tyres. Just getting them up to temperature, getting them switched on and out into the lead. So Punju has a lot to do to gain that position back. Almeida as well in the GT3 category just knew that Sparks going around the outside would have gravel on the tyres, and so he could just hang him out to dry, get on the power and just get the possession of P2 back, as we've got a position change between Chesnoid Gaming and Ancephalosis GT3 category, as well as the IndyCars are just line astern at the moment, trying to find any position. Love 46 looks to have a good drive out of the last turn on the restart. I think maybe going for those fresh tyres, getting them up to temperature was the right call there, as Ryan still has the lead of the race, but Punju closing in once again.
Taking one place away from Aerotech. Hayden Gullis getting ahead of Solstice. We thought that might happen on the opening lap after the unsafety car came in slightly wide out of the final corner. I believe that is Reska Kyoso will be under pressure from Zayla and Brendan Hyperstar side by side, the 113 and the 14 car. Punji trying to nab the lead back from Ryan. Will be a brave man to send it around the outside of turn 1 in these conditions, and does wisely for the time being. Just sit and watch and wait and just prowl underneath the rear wing of that 83, touching the grass actually there on the run down into turn number 3. Down the inside we go there. I think that is Chesnoid Gaming taking a position off the hands of Grand Poubet, 7th and 8th in class as the McLaren disposes of the Beamer. And Grand Poubet pushed down a position, was 5th at the restart, let's not forget, as Hayden Gullis has got ahead of Punju meanwhile in the battle for 2nd and 3rd. Here are GR86s. It was McGuinness who was so strong in the early stages, once again resuming this battle royale between himself and Huber, and down the inside into Canada corner. Punchy under brakes and does move up into 2nd in class behind Stewart.
Yes, Stuart just trying to get away in the lead, but the problem is with this GR86 is that it punches a hole through the air and it doesn't have too much aerodynamics to sort of get away, and so the dirty air sort of drags you along in a big, huge slipstream. You'll see them go at least too wide here as Kyle will just tuck into the slipstream of Stuart and just try his best to get alongside Kyle McGuinness, going for the move probably, well, it looks like maybe a bit too far back, to be fair, this time round. So no, he goes for it. There we go. Kyle McGuinness up the inside. Can it be a clean move? It's last and late breakers. They're broken exactly at the same time, but I think Stuart just has to leave the gap on the outside. Still side by side. You can see that by the gap they've left. So they are, well, too wide 2 times as well. This is incredible racing, you must say. Stuart round the outside, slamming the door shut. That is a textbook defence right there. Give himself a pat on the back for that one.
Still ongoing though behind them between Huber and Clark in the battle for 3rd and 4th in class. Still nipping at heels of them, the driver in P5 as well. McGuinness got to be careful here on the run down into turn number 5 that he doesn't get gobbled up and doesn't get stuck behind Stuart. We are going to pull out once again with McGuinness trying to take the lead back. Contact further forward in the IndyCars, the Hot Wheel car. I think that is Monkey Matt potentially missing his front wing and the rear wing falling off one of the cars in front. That might have been Love 46. As they got entangled with each other. Down into turn 5 we go. It's Love 46 on the inside. Monkey Matt, just slams into the back. Bit of a miscommunication there. I think Love 46 slower at the apex of 5 than Matt was potentially expecting.
From what I saw, Love 46 got a snap of oversteer on the apex and had to lift out of it. Monkey Matt tried to get the switch back, but couldn't get round to the inside quick enough and just went straight over the rear wing. But I may be wrong on that. We'll have to see if we can get another angle of that. But that's what it looked like anyway. As all down the inside, Hayden Gullis just decided, yeah, I need this move. I need to get a move on and catch Ryan. And that was a very gutsy move. But he's also having to defend as well from Punju. So this is all kicking off right now. Incredible scenes in the IndyCar pack. And they're nearly coming together with collisions. The GR86 Punju off the road.
Ryan off as well, going through the kink and loses the lead to Hayden Gullis. They're catching the GR86s at the worst possible time. Battle was going on behind because Reska Kyoso, I think it was, although it might have been Zeller, really getting stuck in, trying to take 3rd place off the hands of Punju. Ryan catching these GR cars at the worst time. Hayden into the back of one of them, front wing gone. McGuinness is spun round. Punju, I think, just about finds a space. Up into the air goes McGuinness further back. This is why the GR86s are here. I think somehow Ryan has managed to come through unscathed. Hayden still leading the way to the tune of 3 seconds now. I thought I saw his front wing fly off the car, but still seemingly unscathed. With Reska Kyoso now in 3rd, behind them Zeller, then Brendan Hyperstar. Punju a long, long way away and there in the pit lane.
Yeah, Punju, I think, has had to tow to the pits for damage, sadly. Note to drivers, when we said cannon fodder, that was indeed a joke, not meant to be taken literally, but there we go. Punju just getting onto the grass there, so let's see what we can... Let's have a look here. And it's just all collided, and yeah, the 86 is here already causing chaos. Let's see if we can see what happened to Ryan. I'm not sure we can see from that angle. It's already happened as far as I can see. But yeah, it's chaos. As you can see from the perspective of the IndyCars, what are you meant to do? And that is McGuinness going round as well. Oh my days! And back, and yeah, wheel gone. That's Punju, and that is why he's had to tow to the pits. Just onto the grass, oversteer, and then a passenger.
And I'm pretty sure it was Hayden that slammed into the back of McGuinness up the hill through the blind turn 13. And that was why the Aidan Pole Super Noodle Bagel GR86 car was sent spinning and pirouetting around and eventually into the path of Punju. He was just trying to pick his gap best as he possibly could. But that car seems in all good order as things stand. 2 seconds, 2.4 the gap between Hayden Gullis and Ryan on 83. Reska Kyoso, Zeller and Brendan Hyperstar still very much in this. It's now just a group of 6 though, because Aerotech has managed to work his way through up into 6th, and then 20 seconds back you have the stragglers that have been caught out. Solstice, Love 46, Punju still in the pit lane, getting that car fixed up. A lot of damage. You can see the steering, the suspension absolutely cooked as Hayden continues to soldier on out in front. The thing's fairly stationary and standard in the GT3s as well. Aidan Pole 3 seconds clear of Almeida, equidistant back to Sparks, who has Storm Lena for company in the battle for 3rd and for 4th.
And it looks like Stuart Waffle's also having a better time of it, battling with Grand Poubert at the moment. So maybe just getting a handle on how the Mustang is handling or indeed not handling in certain corners. So yes, a lot of work still to do, but they are in the race. They are definitely gaining time and indeed possibly positions, as we still have a battle. I think this is Stewart, and I have misplaced the liveries for the moment, so maybe
Hubler.
It's
Hubler
Hubler,
leading
yes,
the way,
indeed.
back into the lead after the maladies that befell McGuinness, who's now right at the back of the GR86 pack, but it'll be Hubler and Stewart that will continue to battle it out for first and second in class. Eritek and Storm Molina in second, behind Sweller and Hayden Gullis, who's being represented by Hubler here. I think there's been a mistake there for Reska Kyoso, who's lost a little bit of time to Ryan at 83, I should say, in second, with Zeller still right in there. Brendan Hyperstar at this stage doesn't seem to have the pace of at least the quartet in front. Still only 4 seconds off the outright lead, but just hovering around a second and a half off the back of Zayla, the 14 car in position 4.
Yeah, Zayla, one of the drivers that I don't know how they survived that previous incident. They were caught in the mix of it and somehow got away unscathed. Same as Ryan as well. I'm very surprised. But Brendan doesn't seem to have that pace, as you say, and I think that's the reason why they're trying different strategies, trying to get the jump on everyone. But it's so tricky to make that difference if there's an unsafety car, because the strategy is effectively reset. So any pace differential you had is done and dusted. And there's Graham Poubert and all of them coming into the pits there for fuel and indeed probably tyres. So hopefully no damage to repair there, as Punju has now exited the pits as well, and P10 as well, so he's back on track.
Long old pit stop that, over 200 seconds spent stationary as he didn't use one of his fast repairs. Hayden Gullis, though, his lead was slashed there as he was working his way through the GT3 cars from 2.5 seconds down to Jot as he came into pit road, with Ryan, Reska and Zayla all over the back of him, and Brendan Hyperstar not too far back either. So this leading quintet now leaving it down to the strategical minds. Who's going to take on the most fuel? Tyres, you would imagine, definitely going to be changed. Someone that's had a very lovely time, Aidan Pohl, in total control in the lead of the GT3 class, doing what he likes and very much likes what he's doing as the Indy cars emerge once again. Straight on the button there is Reska Kyoso. Thought about it down the inside, trying to steal a march on Ryan at 83. It could be from attack to defence, because Zayla, right in the thick of the battle, coming down into turn number 3. Solstice, pitted earlier, now finds himself in this 6-car scrap with Brendan Hyperstar at the foot of it. Hayden Gullis still leading the way. I think that might change though on the run down into turn number 5, because Ryan at 83 tucking into the draft very nicely. The time shooting down. We are going to be side by side into the braking zone. Ryan at 83 versus Hayden Gullis. Is Ryan on the inside, has the high road and has the lead of the race in his hands.
Yeah, can't really go too wide through there. There's only one line, and you're putting yourself in danger on the outside as well. Hayden, snap of oversteer, nearly collected by Reska Kyoso there, and Zella behind as well, trying to profit from that, but it's all condensing. It's like a coiled spring compressing, and up the inside, Brendan Hyperstar. That's an aggressive move, but again, no traction on the inside, and then you've got to deal with all of this gravel. It's not making itself any more easy, as there are still a few GR86 to get through. Solstice nearly collecting one there on the outside, but everybody escapes that, and it's still everyone in the slipstream, everyone trying to get a march, and Ryan L83 actually is getting a march on. 1 second now is the gap. That's nearly outside of slipstream territory. Up the insides though goes Zella, and Reska Kyoso has been caught completely off guard there and is forced to give up the position. What a great overtake.
Struggling to fire up those grey stripe primary tyres. The alternates for Zayla, and up into 3rd position. Brendan Hyperstar also on the alternate tyres. Zayla slightly wide there through the final corner. Reska Kyoso follows the 14 car in, and that might present an opportunity as we crest the hill to start lap 24 with these Indy cars. For Brendan Hyperstar to move back up into the top 4 should be easy as you like, and does pull in front of the 113. Brendan Hyperstar making the most of the opportunity as it presented itself to move up into 4th. Again, Zayla there slightly wide through the medium speed corners.
Yeah, Reska Kyoso not really gelling with this setup or the car today. Just so many twitches of oversteer that I've seen, so many moments where it's just in certain grips. So yeah, it's definitely something to look at for the next race for them. But conversely, for Brendan Hyperstar, the pace seems to be coming to them. I think a lot of drivers, without knowing it, are dipping the wheels into the gravel or onto the grass, and then wondering why they don't have any grip. Ryan hawks that lovely Castrol livery GR86 at the exact right moment, and Hayden's had to go offline collecting maybe a little bit of gravel. I think the cars, yeah, there we go. Brendan Hyperstar got caught completely, and Solstice nearly went into the back of the GR86 as well. So that is chaos, and that has split the pack into 3 separate fields.
And Hyperstar having to go on the defensive there because he was balked behind the GR86 car. Reska Kyoso sets the potential opportunity, but they're catching the stragglers again. This is where we saw a big kerfuffle a few laps ago that pretty much ended Punju's chance of picking up a good result through the kink. Are they just going to find a path through? This time it's the GT3s darting all over the place. Goes Brendan Hyperstar trying to find the best path to work his way through the traffic. Reska Kyoso can just follow in the footsteps of the Season 1 and IndyCar champion. Wide goes the Mustang and Mercedes, also wide of Ancephalosis. Reska Kyoso following Brendan Hyperstar through the traffic beautifully, but Ryan at 83's lead has been completely eroded in the traffic. This is where it's a little bit about luck as well, isn't it? When you catch the stragglers past Chesnoy, we go up the hill. Ches almost pushing Reska Kyoso there into the grass, almost into the pit wall, but the battle out in front will resume. Ryan just attempts clear and into the back of one of the GT3s we go. It's the Ferrari that's taken out, I think, Josh's corner, and now Hayden taps the back of Ryan, chips off part of his front wing, half spin, and he's lost his rear wing because it was Zeller into the back of Gullis.
Yeah, I can't believe that. Just and all collected a GR as well, and that's collected
Hyperstar over the top of the back of Zeller.
Reska Kyoso, I think, has managed to get away with it, but yeah, that is just and that is definitely going to be an unsafety car. As there you can see the confirmation. Just look at all of that damage. I think that one collision with, I don't know who collected Josh's corner, but that started it all. I think everybody was panicking, trying to avoid, and just got themselves up into even more trouble. So very, very unfortunate for everyone, but that's a lot of cars in the pits with damage. We have Love 46 in the pits as far as I can see. So let's have a look here. They're on board with Josh's corner. This is quite a bit back. They're just coming through the last sector. But we'll see if we can get one just a little bit more on. This is coming into the final turns now, so you should be able to see the Indy cars coming into the shot in just a second. As there's Chesnoid Gaming, so Chesnoid is going to get sort of balked on the outside. That's where the fun begins, as they say. So Chesnoid gets pushed wide, and here comes Ryan with all of the Indy cars in tow. So Josh just minding his own business, not keeping really to... Oh, he does go to the left, so Josh tries to get out of the way. And exactly what happens here. Oh, he has to avoid an 86 car, and then that collects the Indy car. I think just... I'm not sure who to even put fault on. It's just a series of unfortunate events, that one.
We had about 5 collisions there. Obviously getting boxed in was Josh's corner. We then had the contact into turn 1 between Gullis and Zayla, and then everything kicked off behind them as well. That has got Ryan in the lead ahead of Gullis and Brendan Hyperstar. I think it was Gullis into the back of one of the GR86s, then Zayla into the back of Gullis, and then they just got caught up because Hayden lost his rear wing. Zayla had half a front wing. There was the contact, and then it was Brendan Hyperstar vaulting over the back of the Williams liveried IndyCar there. Hayden just trying to tippy-toe around with no rear wing on his car. I think Brendan Hyperstar actually got through fairly unscathed, minus his front wing, but it is Zayla in the 14, just trailing that rear wing, dragging the rear wing of their IndyCar along the tarmac, as everybody will now make their way back into the pits. Ryan with a significantly, well, better looking car compared to Hayden, for example, who's got bits hanging off all over his choke.
Yeah, that's an understatement, that's for sure. I think Zella just didn't realise that the front wing was off on the car, so tried to turn in, collected the 86 on the outside, and that led to the damage with Brendan Hyperstar. You can see everybody pitting right now for repairs. So Ryan should leave the pits right now. The only car that I think escaped unscathed from all of that, miraculously. So should have a good leave. Solstice, Aerotech carry on, so they take P1 and P2, but they are at an offset of strategy at the moment. So this unsafety car has actually thrown everything on its head. I have no idea right now who actually has the better strategy, because sort of looking at it, you could go to the end at the moment on fuel, but it's a little bit touch and go as far as I know from the, what we've seen on the strategies so far. So this may end up with a little bit of lifting and coasting, as they say.
100%. At least in the IndyCar race, it's been a lot of short sprints, 7 or 8 lap stints for the majority of this, barring, of course, that you stay out of trouble and keep all the parts attached to your car. Solstice already has done 6 laps in this stint. Aerotech with 3 on the board, and Punju with 6 as well. Punju really with nothing to lose, picking up a couple of places at the expense of Love 46, Matt, and Zayla, who of course is very, very damaged in the 14 car. As they are now, or the Indy cars at least, filing up behind the unsafety car, making their second appearance, and maybe not the last. We'll have to wait and see. Less than 10 laps to go, so it will be a sprint to the flag, and we'll have to wait and see whether Solstice, Aerotech and Punju can try and nurse their cars to the end of the race, but how much of a performance advantage will they be handing to their competitors? Yes, they've got the track position, but we have seen it is possible to race, and of course, there's the added dynamic of the fact that you are going to be passing cars. They will catch the GR86s between now and the end of the race, you would imagine. Maybe not the GT3 cars. That's a little bit of a question mark. Maybe if there's a bit of a bump and run, let's say, that goes on between the GT3s, then maybe a couple of stragglers that the Indy cars do catch up. They're on average around about 15 seconds a lap faster, around a 1:47 lap. So for the GT3 cars, they should be safe, barring any major maladies.
Oh, that's a commentator's curse if I've ever
That's
heard
true.
one. But
I shouldn't have said that.
The closing pace, as I think we've said before, the closing pace is equal to that of Le Mans Hypercar versus GT3 car. So you're arriving at such a speed. We saw it on the main straight with Josh's corner. You don't have time to react if something unexpected happens. And so you've got the equal thing with the GT3 versus the GR86 as well. So you've got people like Josh's corner, what happened in the incident, trying to avoid a slower car, who himself is trying to avoid getting hit by a faster car, and it just chaos breeds chaos, as they say. But it definitely will start to be a factor as well, that as we get later into the race, you're getting towards a full stint of a race, and so some drivers might be paying a little bit less attention. They may be going for a little bit more aggressive moves in this latter closing laps of the race, and that changes the dynamic. You no longer have the time to say, well, I can sit back and not make the overtake, not take the risk, because I'll run out of laps to do it, so I may as well try and see what happens. So watch this space, as they say.
100%, definitely. And it was a case of really, Josh's corner was a bit unlucky, just getting boxed in there behind the GR86 car, and then tried to put his car in a gap that was just very much closing, like you said, with the closing speed that the Indy cars have got. And there wasn't too much, I don't think, that Zayla really could have done about that one. And then everybody here, for the preceding 30 seconds, all of them tripping over each other, and for the subsequent 30 seconds as well, everybody tripping over one another. And Cefalos is currently in 7th, has been in the wars a couple of times in his Mercedes car. If we go through the team game, the 301s of Brendan Hyperstar and Chase Noyd has been a bit of a mixed bag, currently running in 5th and 8th in class respectively. If we look for the leaders, Solstice currently leading the way for the IndyCar brigade, and then Suella Almeida, who's jumped ahead of Aidan Pole in the pit stops. Aidan Pole, of course, his teammate is Soup Noodle Bagel, who is the one and only retiree who we've had so far. Did start from pole position, got caught up with Aerotech in the opening salvos and didn't make it much further. Swello teammates, of course, with Hayden Gullis, who's been up and down quite a lot. So 1st and 4th, with Gullis running 4th in the IndyCar scrap. Looking fairly decent for those guys as well.
I think Swello is trying a different strategy here. Maybe has stayed out, if at least from me looking at the timing. So trying to just contain Aidan Pole and make sure he doesn't get the jump on them once again. I'll have to wait and see if that strategy pays off, as quite a few of the Indy cars are in the pits once again, just recognizing that it's touch and go on fuel, so they will just have to make sure they've got enough to go to the end. And that does mean that we'll have some more changes in position, and the race gets turned on its head once again. I think just in this case, you need to just sit back and watch it happen, because I can guarantee you there are going to be some drivers that won't be patient enough on this restart, and it could end up in some contact into turn 1. That's for sure. We've seen some interesting overtakes around the outside of Carousel, for example, but turn 5 has been a sticking point for a lot of drivers. So on the restart, maybe if they don't get a run into turn 1 or turn 3, they will be trying into turn 5. And with all of that gravel strewn across the track, I don't think they'll have a chance to sweep it up under this unsafety car period. That will be very, very tricky indeed.
100%. We have to say as well, there's a high likelihood that gravel gets brought back onto the circuit at some point between now and the end of the race. So Ryan resumes his familiar position for the majority of this race, back at the lead of the IndyCar brigade. Hayden Gullis 2nd, Brendan Hyperstar 3rd, Reska Kyoso 4th, Monkey Matt 5th, all of whom stayed out. Everybody behind is a 50-50 split. Punju pitted, along with Aerotech, Solstice, Love 46, and Zayla taking the most of a cheap pit stop. Zayla in particular was already at the back, saw other people coming in, thought might as well go for it as well, try and give yourself a little bit of an advantage. Don't need to do any fuel saving at all. When you look at Ryan and 83, Gullis, Hyperstar, there may be a little bit of fuel saving that they'll have to do between now and then. We'll just see how high the fuel burn is and how much they are willing to risk it. And the top three in the GT3 class pretty much remain the top three for the entire time, although the lead has changed hands in the pit stop window since the unsafety car came out. Suelio Almeida now ahead of Aidan Pole with Sparks, who has, I think, been in third ever since lap 2 or 3.
Yeah, it certainly hasn't changed that much in the GT3 class, and I think that's just because of the pace difference. The top three have had a lot more pace, maybe dragging along Storm Molina as well. But as for Grand Poubert and Stroopwafel, they've been sort of battling amongst each other, and they've been allowing the top four to create a gap. Which has meant that perhaps the collisions have been a little bit less, or the battling has been a little bit less between those two packs, and so now they're all condensed together. So it's every man for himself, as they say, and I think definitely disappointment for Josh's corner, because with Ryan leading the IndyCar race, I think you said previously, that could have been a huge haul of points, but never say never. They're back in the race, they're still able to drive, and so they could carve through the field. You never know.
100% bookending it, aren't they? At the moment, with Ryan first in class and Josh's corner last in class, but was running well before that unfortunate incident, I think is the best way to describe it, that led to this unsafety car just getting balked in as Indy cars were flying past, and he came up to the back of one of the GR86s, pulled out, and there was a 14 car of Zayla trying to come through as well. There was no space, and slamming into the GR86 car, and then a whole concertina of dramas unfolding after that as well. But the unsafety car is going to peel off into the barriers, take off part of the front nose, and also rip off the front right tyre as well. And it will be down to Ryan to try and back the pack up, control the pace, and try and steal a march on this restart.
Yeah, the unsafety car has now become an advertising board on track, which is an interesting scenario, really. I haven't seen that one done before, but there we go. In Creator Series, we try all new manner of ideas every single time. Some more successful than others in terms of the unsafety car. That one I'm not sure went to plan, but it was spectacular, that crash in any case. So hats off to the unsafety car driver, living up to the name, as they say. And Ryan really taking his time to get everything back up to temperature, all of the weaving. Now the driver in front has the advantage to just warm up the tyres or just wait for as long as possible. You'll probably find that Ryan goes on the apex of the last corner. It's a long run down to turn 1, uphill as well, so the slipstream will be a huge effect. And we've seen Hayden loves to try and get a good run and try and get alongside into the turn 1. Very aggressive, very trying always that move no matter what the circumstance. And so Brendan Hyperstar being in P3 also adds to the mix of drivers that really have had nothing to lose in this race, because they've been in the wars, and this is their opportunity to win it right at the end. Whereas for Ryan, he's been consistent and just wants to carry on as he does. So let's see into the final couple of turns now. Still warming the tyres. A lot of people on the softer compounds, that's to note as well. They may have problems with the temperature when we will see Ryan go. Let's have a look. Still waiting. The weaving stops. Everyone gets ready for Ryan L83 to punch it. Still waiting out of the exit of turn 1. He's going to wait until the last second. The rule is once they cross the finish line, drivers can overtake, so nothing is set until Ryan hits that throttle. Hayden Gullis cannot do anything, and I think we are just about to get racing damage also there for Solstice, I think, so not ideal. I think we are racing now, so green flag. They have crossed the line, and I think Ryan has got a great move there. Hayden not being able to put the throttle down, and Brendan Hyperstar actually under pressure.
Yeah, Hyperstar under the pump, but Reska Kyoso, I think, has just fallen away. It's Punji on the move and in the groove, down the inside. Into turn 1 we go, and does steal 5th place straight away off the hands of Monkey Matt. Battling, meanwhile, in the GT3 class, Asuela Almeida will lead Aidan Pole down into the first break zone. Sparks, does he fancy it around the outside? Tried it on the previous restart to get up into second. Was unsuccessful on that attempt, and once again, the outside line of 1 not working for last season champion. I think there was a bit of contact there and some dirt thrown up as somebody was slightly wide through turn 1. And right to the very back, McGuinness now at the back, given an opportunity, a lifeline to try and work his way back through these GR86 cars.
Solstice is tumbling down positions with that damage on the IndyCar, so that is very, very unfortunate. Meanwhile, the shenanigans continue at the top of the GR86 packs as well, with some side by side, but you can definitely see Hayden Gullis desperately trying to tag onto the back of Ryan L83, who's got a gap of 1 second already. And here you can see Love 46 battling with Solstice. They're missing part of their front wing, and that's going to be oh so devastating onto the grass, nearly just keeping it on the track. But you can see the lack of downforce there. Surely they're going to have to pit to repair that. Because I think on board now with Punju attacking Reska Kyoso, so trying to get the move on, and a lot of people losing or using, sorry, their boost at this stage of the race to try and get a move on. But seeing as everyone's deploying it at the same time, it has no effect.
Negligible impact as Ryan, the lead, did get up to about 1.3 seconds, 1.4, just dropped down in the second half this lap. Interesting line difference there between Punju and Reska Kyoso. Kyoso carrying much more speed, but Punju prioritising the exit, and you would imagine we'll get a better run out of it. It's actually Kyoso just extending that gap with a 1:13 cut to the 13. Less than a second separating Ryan L83 and Hayden Gullis at the start of lap 30. Battle for the final spot in the top 3 has called a little bit as well. Zayla a bit boxed in there as well behind Monkey Matt, who was slow at the apex of turn 1. Brennan Hyperstar third. Reska Kyoso still under the cosh. I think Monkey Matt might have dropped it potentially there. Yes, sideways through turn 3. The Hot Wheels car not riding particularly nicely there and dropping all the way to the back of the IndyCar pack. Almeida still leading Aidan Pohl, although those two I think are side by side into turn 1 as Hayden Gullis continues to apply the blowtorch. Yes, this is to the outside. It's going to have to be for Aidan Pohl. Made to go the long way around. Didn't work for Sparks, the previous lap, to get past Pohl. Pohl has to try the trick and is unsuccessful on that occasion with Almeida getting the drive and the traction, but ducking weave underneath the rear wing of the 9 car. The Porsche under pressure from the vet, but it is Pohl again that has to just sit behind for the time being. But in the slipstream, the draft, the long run down into turn 5, surely Almeida might be a bit of a sitting duck.
Yeah, Almeida just knew that that move wasn't going to happen for Aidan Pohl, but it could happen down into turn 5 here. We've seen so many overtakes. Goes to the inside, goes very defensive. Aidan Pohl using all of the track and a little bit more on the outside. Can he get the switchback? Not particularly. All of that gravel really just hampering any traction on the exit. And once more, Almeida just able to defend into the infield section here. It just can't happen realistically now until Carousel. The straights are too short. And that means Almeida can take the best line into here and try and stomp on the throttle and get a good exit and get away. But Aidan Pohl demonstrating that that pace is consistent throughout the whole race. And Almeida actually taking a wide line to cut back and hopefully break the dirty air so that Aidan Pohl can not get up the inside. And that is a move as well to the inside. Brendan Hyperstar trying to get up the inside of Hayden Gullis, but Hayden having none of it, braking late and just saying, no, Sunshine, you've got to try something a little bit better than that if you want to overtake me. You're seeing the absolute masterclass of race defense right now because these drivers have so much experience in high downforce cars. We are in for a treat. And talking about a treat, Aidan Pohl up the inside. Almeida left the door open, but once again, the overspeed just protecting, and that is an unfortunate situation for Solstice, who has repaired that wing but doesn't want to break it right now.
Solstice gets caught short on the outside. I'm impressed with Hayden Gullis' car control because he had to hang on to that, didn't he, around the outside of turn 1. Massive armful of opposite lock and just about kept it A ahead of Hyperstar and B pointing in the right direction. Battle for third raging on as well because Sparks is under the cosh, under the microscope, because Storm Molina charging around the outside. The Aston Martin trying it on the outside of the Audi as Sparks. Is there traction over the curb and probably over the grass for Storm Molina in the 007 Aston Martin car? The battle continues to rage on down to 3. Sparks tentative under braking, invites the opportunity for Molina to storm around the outside. Can't quite get it worked though because Sparks has the high road and the high line, and they're still eyeball to eyeball through 4 and the long run down to 5. Meanwhile, just up the road, Aidan Pohl again is going to have to go the long way round into turn 5 to try and desperately get the lead back. Almeida driving in his mirrors but driving absolutely perfectly. Little bit of oversteer on the exit of 5, but still keeping the 12 car at arm's length as Storm Molina has stolen third away from Sparks.
At what point does that Aston Martin become just aura farming in that 007 livery? You've got to give respect to finding that one. Aidan Pohl got a little bit unlucky there in turn 5, just bouncing off of the curb and just couldn't get the car rotated, and that means once again into the carousel with that dirty air effect. You'll see him dive to the inside, then the outside to try and get a little bit of clean air, but it's just not happening. Meanwhile, at the front of the IndyCar pack, or to the... Oh, this is not going to end well. Punju just up the inside. Reska Kyoso leaving nothing to doubt. I tell you what, the fact that the GR86s did not become a bowling field at that point is a miracle somewhat. And yeah, all of the pins standing, but somewhat shaken.
I think we've managed to get through them unscathed. Battle continues. Round 3 between Paul and Almeida. Once again, a long way around, but this time, Aidan Paul has a foothold in this battle. And it's Almeida on the back foot to the outside of 13, trying to cling on, dipping a couple of wheels into the grass. And finally, Aidan Paul, who pace-wise has been head and shoulders clear the rest of the GT3 class, eventually gets the Vet back ahead of the Porsche, and now with a chance to try and run away to take the class victory.
Yeah, that was a class move, just putting Almeida under pressure. They left the door open, and then that was it. They had the inside line for the penultimate turn, and that was all she wrote, as they say. And Aidan Paul now just has to drive away with that supreme pace. However, it must be said that Sparks is hanging on to the back of Storm Molina there, so that Aston Martin punching a sizable gap in the air, and that is allowing Sparks to just draw up to the back and try and attempt to regain that podium position in the GT3 class. But for the moment, it looks like Storm Molina just has a couple of tenths of second of pace there in terms of gain. Meanwhile, at the front of the IndyCar field, Ryan L83 has got the hammer down, and I think Hayden Gullis is in the pit lane, so a very late pit stop, and I think he's the only person. Is there some damage on that car? It doesn't look like it, so this is maybe a misplay in strategy.
Clearly hasn't fueled the car up enough to get to the end, and that is a podium thrown out of contention for Hayden Gullis. And that is not good news at all. His teammates second in class for the GT3s have just lost the lead. It would have been double up in second place for them, but with that potential strategic blunder, Hayden throwing that away and handing second on a plate to Brendan Hyperstar, with Zayla still in hot pursuit, less than 2 seconds back. Punju fourth, Hederesca Chioso and Aerotech. You can see them flash through 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Numbers are very difficult, everybody. Resca Chioso still really sternly examining the back of the 13 car into 5, but it's Punju holding firm for the time being. Alternate tyres for the 13, primary tyres for the 113. And Resca Chioso carried so much more speed through the blind crest up towards turn 6. Really punchy here, seemingly got good confidence, and that car underneath the 113 looking very, very powerful. Punju, does he have to drive in his mirrors? Doesn't throw the defensive shape, but equally Resca Chioso didn't chuck it down the inside.
That car seems to be on a knife edge. It's fast for Resca Chioso, but so close to disaster on all of these turns, nearly dipping a wheel onto the grass, dipping a wheel once again there onto the grass, so it's just leaving no margin for error at the moment. As through goes Resca Chioso, I think using a little bit of boost. Punju uses boost as well, as we've got the or the GR86 class, I should say, with Stewart still in the lead on that one, defending valiantly, but it's all to play for still, as they can just get the boost, or the slipstream, I should say. It's the IndyCars that have the boost, and at the moment Resca Chioso has firmly grasped the position off of Punju, as there's no pace to answer. So Ryan in the pits as well, Brendan Hyperstar in the pits, Sella in the pits as well. That would indicate that they don't have enough fuel to get to the end, and everyone has to pit yet.
We were talking about 6 or 7, maybe 8 lap sprints on the fuel throughout this race, and clearly they haven't got the fuel to get there. Resca Chioso, now your leader from Punju and Aerotech. Can they get to the end? Just a couple of laps left. Hayden Gullis coming in a few laps ago. Is he going to steal a march over Ryan, over Zayla, over Hyperstar as well? Here comes Gullis powering at the top of the hill. We'll wait and see the 83 car appear out of pit road. Is it Hayden Gullis in front? Well, he's ahead of Hyperstar just about, but to the tune of 2.5 seconds, still behind Ryan at 83.
Indeed, yeah, that has definitely, I wouldn't say worked out. I think they were sort of in a lose-lose situation. They had to pit at some point, so they chose to try and do the undercut, but I think just Ryan has a little bit more pace in this one, so we'll have to wait and see, as Brendan Hyperstar has gained quite a bit, I would say, on the Hayden Gullis, so we'll have to wait and see how this one pans out. At the moment, Resca Chioso has the lead on track, but it remains to be seen whether the front 4 needs to pit again. I'm just going to have a look at their race stints to see if I can get any more information of it. They're marginal. 6 or 7 laps in the stint, so very, very tricky.
Chioso is actually a lap longer than Punju, and I wonder if Punju's short-fueled as well, because he's dropped 2 seconds on this lap, even more now to Chioso. I wonder if the 13 car backing it off quite a lot to try and get to the end. There's just over a lap to go, and it almost feels like the European Grand Prix from the late 90s, when all of the drivers that were in the lead had some issues come the end, fuel-related issues on this occasion, and it's Resca Chioso who's done the most laps of all in this stint that now leads the charge, and Punju continues to leak time, just trying to eke the fuel out as long as he possibly can. driving on fumes, like a Top Gear challenge from back in the day, racing from Switzerland to Blackpool. Nearly 3 seconds of margin, but this is the problem now for Chiozzo, who's caught the traffic again at the start of the last lap. They have caught the GT3s.
Yeah, Punju getting caught out as well. I think Imola 1985 is the race you're referencing, where everyone ran out of fuel. A very iconic race, and hopefully that doesn't happen for our race leaders.
Melina off, by the way. I'm not sure if you call it the 007. License to thrill, license revoked, because she was off in the grass there coming out of 3. And that is a top 3 spot in the GT3 class. Thrown away, was just about holding Sparks at bay. Coming up to the back of one of the Indy cars. This is Storm Melina through 3. Does she drop it? Yes, just a little bit overzealous on the loud pedal. Throws it into the grass. Does she have a chat with the wall? Just about slams the anchors on. Keeps it out of it. Shaken, not stir. She gets a bit shaken up after that one, unfortunately. But as we return to the front of the Indy class, 3.7 seconds the margin now for Reska Chiozzo. And this is looking very, very nice. I think that's Suki Ubeu getting out of it. Ryan 83 is absolutely motoring, by the way. Dispose of Love 46, catching Aerotech very, very quickly. Past Melina, down into turn 8, up to the carousel for the final time we go. This could get touch and go for a couple of drivers. Punju still backing it off, trying to get to the end. The same with Aerotech, who lost 8 seconds to Reska Chiozzo on the previous lap. Down the inside of Sparks into Canada corner. Reska Chiozzo has been the one driver that's got the strategy, the fuel strategy on point. Look at that, Sparks diving down the inside to try and lap. I think that is Chesnoy Gaming potentially. And in front of the GR86s, got to be careful of those, but 4 seconds the margin. A lot of traffic to deal with, but she won't care one jot about it, because Reska Chiozzo, the time continues to tumble, and they will take the victory in round 1 of season 3 in the IndyCar class. Punju losing time hand over fist. Ryan's up into 3rd, by the way. Punju, I think, might run out over the line. Look at the time coming down. 83 catching very, very quickly. Can Punju make it? He crawls over the line in 2nd. Half a second the gap to Ryan. And then it is Aerotech who just about holds firm ahead of Gallus and Hyperstar. Everybody crossing the line at exactly the same point. Aidan Pohl, I think, will be the winner of the GT3s ahead of Almeida, and then Sparks in 3rd. But what a finish that was. They were very short on fuel, but Reska Chiozzo did a lap more than everybody else. Clearly got the fuel saving spot on.
Yeah, still a bit of cars on track racing at the moment. I think Aidan Pohl still with that lead. I just want to point out as well, Brendan Hyperstar and Hayden Gullis were side by side across the line, with Hayden Gullis getting the position. That's what we saw just as some of the GT3s were crossing the line as well. But it looks like Aidan Pohl's got this one covered off, but you never know with the fuel situation. They had pitted a little bit earlier than that last unsafety car, and that means that it could be marginal. You see Almeida just pushing the limits there still through the carousel, can't get close enough. But what can you say about Aidan Pohl? It's just been exemplary performance from start to finish. The strategy, the unsafety cars have put a spanner in the works, but if it weren't for that, it would be clear into the distance, and they've done a just demonstration of a masterclass of how to drive a GT3 car. Only a few corners left. I count 4 of them. This is probably the most tricky one, the one where it could go wrong. It's all okay for the moment. The gravel is not of their concern. Almeida might try a late move, but to me, there's not enough braking distance in it. The last turn comes about all too quick for Almeida. It will be, barring any fuel shortages, Aidan Pohl that takes the first victory of the season in GT3. What a way to win it. What a demonstration, but what a masterclass from these two. Aidan Pohl wins GT3.
I think as we see the racing still going on in the GR86 class, is Hobler, who I think has just taken the lead from Stewart into Canada corner the last lap, side by side. Through 14 they go. Could barely fit a playing car between them. Wide goes Huber. I think Stewart might be trying to take this as a drag race up the hill to the line. Clark trying to pick up the pieces if there's any dramas as they cut the beam. Spots the smallest of gaps on the grass. It's going to be a 3-wide sprint to the end. I think it is just about Stewart from Hubler, from Clark at the line, separated by literally nothing, and just about it's Stewart, part of the Aerotech Storm Melina team, that will take it for the GR86s. 11 milliseconds by the smallest of margins, with Clark a further 62 milliseconds back. What a grandstand finish from the GR86s, up the hill for the final time. 72T Taron in 4th. Then it was McGuinness who was battling at the front for so long, but caught up in that big calamity for the first unsafety car, could never quite get it back.
Just hats off to the cannon fodder class. I guess they have done some spectacular racing today. I think every time there's been a GR86 on track or on screen even, it has just been chaos and a masterclass of how to make racing interesting. But, I mean, what a race. We have had so many talking points, incidents, overtakes. That race delivered in terms of multi-class racing.
100%. Hugely exciting. Here are the final classifications. Reska Kyozo in the end by 12 seconds to Punju, who was literally almost pushing his car over the line. He had so little fuel left. Ryan at 83 in third. Missed it by half a second. Aerotech was in the wars, but does come home in fourth ahead of Gullis and Hyperstar, who were separated, like he said, by 100th of a second. Love 46, Zayla Plays, who was in the wars in the second half of the race. Monkey Matt and then Solstice, the top 10 for the IndyCar races. We lost Super Noodle Bagel fairly early on as well. As for the GT3's exciting finish, Aidan Poldo had it covered once he got ahead of Almeida. Didn't look back in the end by 0.8 of a second, and they were almost quite unlucky if they were short fuel because Sparks was lapped by the Indy cars. The leading duo just about got over the line to start the final lap in time, which could have been to the benefit of Almeida if Pole was struggling for fuel. Pooh Bear in fourth ahead of Des and Cephalosis, Josh's corner. Stroot Waffle, Storm Molina, who with a couple to go was holding that third place, and Chesnord Gaming in 10th. Then we go down to the extremely exciting GR86s. It was Stuart, part of Aerotech and Storm Molina, that beats out Hayden Gullis and Suelo with Greg Hubler by 11 milliseconds. Look at that. Top three. That's like a qualifying result, covered by less than a tenth. Punju and Des with Clark doing a very good job. 72 Town ahead of Carl McGuinness. Reese, School Brunch, Osoy Thema, and Tic Tac 1, the top 10 there. But as a first official multi-class race for season 3, I think that was quite the way to kickstart it, John. That was hugely exciting.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't a point during the race to catch your breath, was there? There just so much action going on. The overtakes, everybody trying to get to grips with the multi-class racing that I don't think we expected the closing speeds to be that high. It will definitely be a talking point into the second races and indeed every race of the season of how do you deal with that a little bit more effectively? How do you not get yourself in trouble so much? Because I think a lot of the drivers are used to the Le Mans style overtaking where you've got a little bit of overspeed, but this is a huge amount more, and so you need to adapt to it. As I think we might be able to get Reska Kyoso in for a little bit of an interview. Well, that was a way to win it on strategy as far as we could see, but I mean, you kept yourself in contention and the car looked very oversteery in certain places. How does it feel to win that race?
Feels great. I feel like I've done it the boring way though, on fuel like that. But I'm surprised the other guys didn't go for it. To be honest, I noticed in the safety car that that it would be tight, and I wasn't sure if it was possible. But I thought, well, I've committed to it now after the first lap. I got to go for it, and somehow it worked out in the end.
At what point did you start thinking how I might have this? You saw Hayden going to the pits, then Ryan and I think Hyperstar were a couple of laps later, and then almost you found yourself in the lead of the race. Punju had to back off massively as well because he was very short-fueled. How close towards the end were you going, hang on, I think I might have this one in the bag?
There's strong people in this field, so I didn't think anything until I saw them in the pits and I was going by them, because for all I know, they're actually saving and doing that pace. I wouldn't be surprised. So when they came in, I was like, oh, okay, we actually have a shot here. And that's just about when Punju was dropping back, and I thought he pitted a lap later than me. He had a bit more fuel, I thought, unless he didn't fulfill. So yeah, until that point, I really didn't have any thought that it would really happen.
We saw in the midpoint of the race that there was a few problems with oversteer, with the car being a little bit skittish in certain corners. So did you do anything in the latter stages to maybe gain some performance to allow you to just be a little bit more at ease with your strategy and with the race in general?
Yeah, I did adjust the brake bias because I didn't really adjust it for the first stint, and I sort of wasn't very confident on the brakes. Which is why I went off in the first stint and got some damage. And I made the decision to only take the hard tires because I felt like I was overheating the reds. Although I think that's just skill issue on my part, because most of the other people were running reds anyway, so they probably were the tire to be on by the looks of things. But the hard tires suited me better, so I stuck with them.
And how wild was the race as a whole? A lot of different speeds, a lot of different closing speeds, having to work your way through quite a lot of carnage at times with those GR86s in particular. That felt like they were 3 wide for 95% of it. From your perspective, how was it?
Yeah, I mean, that speed difference between IndyCar and GR86 is something. I do quite a lot of multi-class racing, but the difference is not ever this much, right? So the first few times coming through, especially the pack of them, I remember at one point I was going into, I think it's turn 4, and there's a 3 wide wall in front of me, so I just had to stop, nowhere I could go. So that's quite new to me.
Seeing as you talk about the multi-car, maybe just one last question: is there a moment that stood out to you in the race? Because we've had so much go on, I want to see from your perspective what you think, apart from the victory, of course, was your standout moment.
It was right at the start, really. The first few laps, I had an amazing battle with Hayden. We were going at it, and then we ended up split up, and then we found each other just before the first safety car, and we had a bit of a battle again at the end of that run. So, yeah, that was right at the start, but that was a really fun battle and good racing.
Perfect. I will sneak one more question in as well. After what you've seen this week, next week goes to Laguna Seca, which is a very different circuit. Some very troublesome corners, I think, for what we've seen this week. How do you expect things to go in Laguna Seca?
I expect the traffic to be more of a factor because that's such a smaller track than this place. So, yeah, we're gonna see some wrecks, I think, most likely with lapping. But yeah, I think from my side, I need to get a bit more comfortable in the car because I was a bit all over the place in that first stint. So I need to be a bit better for Laguna.
Unlimited carnage. I think we can all get behind that. Very well done on the victory. Got the fuel strategy absolutely perfect as others fell by the wayside. It was, of course, Raska Kyoso coming through to pick up the first win of the season. And very well, congratulations. Next, we're going to bring in, I'm not sure, John, do you want to choose? Well, no, we're going to bring in Aidan Pohl, in fact. Part of the GT3, the winner of the GT3 class. Aidan, looked like a lot of fun out there, but for the majority of the race, looked like he had things pretty much under control.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, sorry, my camera, guys, I'm so sorry. Wow, give me a second, there we go. So, fortunately, I got stuck with the Corvette, which I wasn't excited about at first, but this track is quite literally made for the Corvette. It's got like the Corvette's name on it. I don't know how actually made for it was, but it's all 90-degree corners pretty much, and the Corvette is like perfect for that. It hits that same rotation every single time, so it felt really good.
They had the DRS camera there for a moment, but very good innovating on camera technology. But I want to ask also, Almeida kept you honest pretty much the whole race as well. Do you think they'll be more potent in different tracks like next week, Laguna Seca?
Absolutely. I think this was the track for the Corvette. I don't think it's going to be this strong at another track. I also think that Sueyo's really going to be on it for the next one as well. And I mean, you even saw at the end there his strategy to skip the rear tires, pit a lap later, and basically make up time under that safety car. Passing the cars led to him getting back into the lead and giving an opportunity to defend, which I was really hoping he wouldn't do, but he did super well at it. I think there's going to be a lot of battling up ahead between him.
On the GR86 cars, obviously, for the majority of the race, they were battling very, very close quarters. How was it for you trying to work your way through the traffic? I imagine quite stressful at certain times.
Yeah, there were a couple of moments. I don't really drive multi-class ever. And so sometimes when I think they're going to go one way, they go the other, and I've already committed. I made a couple of passes in the grass, got a few contacts, but survived, which was the overarching thing. Definitely something to learn in the next few races and get more used to.
So possibly from your perspective, is it more difficult / dangerous being the sort of middle pace car in the multi-class, or do you prefer to be perhaps the faster car or slower car?
I like being the slower car typically, which I mean, I feel like against the Indy cars, but it definitely is creating some weird moments where I'll be looking to pass a GR and the Indy cars have no headlights, so you don't see them coming up. They're so fast. I'm trying to check my mirrors, but there were a couple times I would be making a move, and thankfully the Indy car took evasive maneuver and would go like 2 tires into the dirt. I just didn't see him coming, so it's I expect there to be some problems with that at least once or twice in the season.
Perfect. Next week then, Laguna Seca. Do you think those problems might rear their head a little bit?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a bad one. the corkscrew is gonna. I mean, it's gonna be you're either really playing it safe, which I'm not super good at doing, or you are losing a bunch, like risking your life through the corkscrew, through a lot of those tight corners. Turn 1, I feel like could be some problems. The exit of turn 1, people riding out. I anticipate there's going to be a lot more traffic. It's also a shorter track, so that's going to make it that much worse.
Well, many congratulations. Oh, John, was there something else you wanted to add to that?
Oh, I was about to say just a perfect description. You know, what more could you add to that?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think from our perspective, Laguna Seca could be quite fun when we get there, especially with the, like you said, the corkscrew is going to be an adventure, I think is the best way to put it.
It will be.
Well, many congratulations on your GT3 class win, and we'll wish you the best of luck for next week, and enjoy the rest of this week as well. I think he got dragged out before I could finish my congratulations. But yeah, fascinating one, wasn't it? The battling in the GT3 class, especially at the end. Really, really nice, really, really clean battle between himself and Al Mieda. We'll now bring in Punju
purely RNG.
to have a bit of a chat. Oh, Punju, I mean, that must have been a little bit nerve-wracking, the final lap. We saw you backing off quite a lot and then almost crawling, almost pushing the car over the line, and by half a second just keeping it ahead of Ryan.
Yeah, that was a little bit tight. I was sputtering. Before I even got to the hill, I started sputtering. I'm like, uh-oh, that's not good. That's a bad spot to start losing fuel and clutching in. But I did my best. I mean, I was clutching in for 4 laps before that, just on my way down straights. As soon as a few brake markers before where I usually brake, I just throw that clutch in and just slowly coast. So I did my best, and it was pretty good. It was pretty good.
So during the mid-race interview, we talked about how, you know, you had to keep it out of the wars and all of that. With all the chaos that happened in the second half of the race, I think it's safe to say with this multi-class system, you can take no strategy into the latter half of races now.
Something like that, yeah. I think you just play the hope I don't die strategy, and usually works strategy. Obviously, the final set, you got to start kind of considering stuff like fuel, like we obviously had there, right? But outside of that, I mean, it's just wing it. And that's what makes it fun, you know? It's always variable. You can never fully count on anything. I think that's part of the joy and the charm of what makes it so hilarious. So, yeah, I think it's about as good as it could get for strategy-wise.
When we spoke to you mid-race, you were talking about survival being objective 101. It didn't go particularly well in the short term after that, involved in quite a big skirmish as you were trying to work your way through the, I think the GT3s and the GR86s at the same time. Everybody converged on each other. Feel like you maybe just got a little bit unlucky in that one?
There was that. I think I did get a little unlucky in that one. I mean, Hayden clobbered into somebody in front, which then spun him. And as he's spinning, just barely, his nose clips my right rear, and I spin and then hit some more people, and we caused a little bit of a Constantina, as I call it. And yeah, that was a little bit rough. But I mean, honestly, I knew I was okay, I'll probably get a safety car. I'll take the tow. We'll see what happens, you know. And then, I mean, to go from first to last to second, dude, I mean, what a roller coaster! What a way to do it.
And possibly from your perspective in the IndyCar, how difficult was it to spot the GR86s and, you know, sort of figure out where they're going, how to overtake them? Is there something that maybe you can optimize for the next races?
You know, no. I think the worst part about it is you just it's purely luck whether where you're catching them, and you just gotta be the hard part is you have such unbelievable closing speed going into a corner, not even in the straights. Into the corners is where it's terrifying. Because if I brake to the same spot as them, I'll still pass 2 of them if they're relatively right in front of me. You pull in 100, 200 meters worth of braking, distance. So the hard part is you also don't have lights, so you can't flash them to let them know you're gonna go. So you just gotta go for it and kind of hope that they are using their mirrors and noticing that you're coming, you know? Kind of all you got.
And just from a management perspective as well, obviously the show that was put on from a broadcast perspective was extremely, extremely exciting, especially towards the end. The multi-class racing, from our perspective, worked really well. From a driver's perspective, and obviously from your point of view as somebody who is very heavily involved with the iRacing series in the Creator Series, how would you sum it up, the first race of Season 3?
Dude, I mean, if it starts out like this, I can only imagine how it's going to get as we keep going down. That was hilariously fun. for a start. Like, I know it's only going to get better. Laguna Seca next week is going to be quite something. You heard it here first. There's about a 10% chance of rain, so we'll see what happens. So I left it on percentage chances. This season, we're not going to do guaranteed or non-guaranteed rain. It's just going to be percentage chances. So nobody knows until you get there, which would be extra fun. So yeah, I'm excited. I think it's only going to get better and better. And yeah, this race is a great omen for amazing racing to come.
Multi-class, multi-weather, multi-punt. Sounds like a pretty good scenario for racing to me. Yeah, I'll end it on that one. Brilliant stuff from you. And good, yeah, just want to say it's hilarious watching you cut through the cars. That's for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Cheers, Panju. Oh, what a fun way to start things it has been. It's been quite the way. And we're now going to speak to Ryan L83, who at one stage did look like a certainty to pick it up. But in the end, some slightly dicey fuel strategies for a lot of drivers apart from Reska Kyoso. And I think we can say Punju, even though he's basically pushing himself over the line. I mean, it was third in the end. If we just talk, Ryan, firstly, about the fuel strategy, that last unsafety car, did you think you were going to be able to get to the end? Or was it a case of realizing, oh, I'm a little bit short here, I'm going to have to box?
Yeah, I would have had to box anyway. Even if I fuel saved, I probably would have pitted onto the last lap either way, so it wouldn't have worked. But fair play to Reska, Kyoso, Punju, even Aerotech, even though I got him at the last corner, they did very well to try and get to the end. But yeah, it's the aim of the game. They called it right. I played conservatively and managed to get up to a podium, which is good. And it's just the aim of the game, isn't it now? So I'm happy. I'm happy with a podium, though, to take away, for sure.
Was the pace of certain drivers maybe a little bit surprising to you? You talked about Brendan Hyperstar being the favourite, but I won't say he was anonymous, but he had a lot of problems getting up to pace. He was up to pace at the latter part of the race, but maybe some drivers struggling to get accustomed to the multi-class experience.
Yeah, I think Zella's probably one to keep an eye on. I know he finished P8 in the end, but he was really competitive at the start. I think he had good pace. Hayden, obviously, is going to be probably up there as well. We had a good scrap for most of the race. I just think traffic is probably the factor for where we finished in the end in terms of seconds. And he made a mistake, I think, as well before carousel, which kind of helped me a little bit just to be a bit more conservative as well. Punju as well, but I think anyone could really win this championship, because with the uncertainty of the two classes, you never know what can happen. And I think with some certain tracks we've got coming up, it's going to get even more interesting, and we could see some shock results, I think, throughout not just our class, but GT3 and GR86 as well.
A question on the team aspect as well, because in the sort of 75% distance, your teammate got absolutely pinballed around by a load of GR83, GR86s and the IndyCars that were coming through. Does that change your approach at all when you know your teammate has been given a bit of a handicap? They drop right to the back of the pack and you're almost, standing on one leg, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, me and Josh are quite close, and we did talk about pre-race about how we approach the championship. I think we're just here to have fun at the end of the day, and I mean, Josh has only just started learning this track a couple of days ago as well. So we got, I think it's Laguna Seca next week, so quite good knowledge for him, I think, because it's quite regularly used in the GT3s. For the Ferrari, so he should be a bit more confident, I think. But it's just getting used to multi-class in different sort of speed levels as well, which is going to be, I think most drivers will probably get more practice in for next week, especially at a track as tight as Laguna is.
A lot of people were talking about the closing speed and how they were caught out by how fast it was, especially if you're in the IndyCar versus the GR86. Did you have that impression? Were you prepared for it? Did he change anything throughout the race?
Yeah, I kind of expected what it's going to be. It's just like any multi-class race. Like if you're in like a GTP or I'm trying to think of a series here, but basically a GTP. You kind of know roughly the delta from getting past a slower car towards a corner, and most of the time I was lifting maybe twice, like going maybe 200 meters lifting before the corner, just so I get enough speed through there to get a good exit and pass the GR86s, especially at turn 1 and before the kink as well, after carousel. So Yeah, it's just be more conservative and just lift early and just take a lot more, because you lose so much time behind people if you take your normal lines and braking zones. So just from my experience of endurance racing, I kind of knew what the plan was, and I think some people did get caught out by that.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much for chatting to us, Ryan. Wasn't quite the win, but still a very decent result for yourself. And a lot of fun, I think it looked also. So wish you the best of luck for next week, and also enjoy the rest of this week too.
Thank you very much. I'll prepare for a great series on Saturday, and hopefully that's 25 seconds extra.
Hopefully that does last a little bit longer than it did last week. If you know, you know. Thank you very much, Ryan. And hopefully his next appearance in the F1 side of the Creator Series does last more than 4 corners. But John, the bar has been set, hasn't it, from this first race? And we go to Laguna Seca next week, which is a completely different circuit. It has some very, very hairy sections. The corkscrew in particular, I'm thinking that's just going to be a complete pit of madness for the whole race.
I will just add to what Ryan had to say. I'm very, very glad that he's forgotten who collided with him in that F1 race. Definitely not someone on camera right now. Moving on from that, Laguna Seca, really enjoying watching that track in some racing, and so I think that the multi-class, glossing over the question about me, it's going to be a difficult track to overtake on in terms of the multi-class. I think there are a lot of drivers that maybe think they've got it sussed out in terms of just getting the undercut on a slower car, or indeed just avoiding a faster car. They may have to adjust their strategy because there's a lot of tight corners with only one line through it. So it'll be a case of practicing it, making sure you've got it all up to spec, and confidence again at Laguna Seca is just everything, let's say.
100%. I think they're going to be even more 50-50, maybe 10-90 cents than we even saw this week, which was an incredible start to Season 3. Your winners, of course, Aidan Pole for the GT3s, Reska Kioso, I had to try and remember that very quickly, Reska Kioso for the IndyCars, and of course Nate Stewart for the GR86s. And just a word on the GR86 as well. What fun that looked. I mean, if you're starting out in sim racing and you want to see what goes on, the GR86s, that was incredible racing throughout.
It is, yeah, indeed. And I really do think that the 86 car looks to be the one to race in, really, because you can just go side by side. And I actually think that we've got Nate Stewart that's just joined the interview room, so perhaps maybe we can get an interview. Well, that was certainly a race, wasn't it? How exciting was it from the commentary box? But it was even more exciting from your point of view. Give us a bit of perspective into that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, really. The GR86 is really packed up because the draft is massive, and Road America being the super big track it is, I was expecting a pack race, and that's exactly what we got. Thankfully, that we had some bumps and bruises throughout the entire thing, but overall, it was pretty clean. I had a lot of fun, and I'm really thankful that Aerotech reached out to me and let me come run for him and Storm. And yeah, that finish was probably the finish of the season already, if I say so myself.
Unbelievable run up the hill to the line for the last time. Just put us in the position of the cockpit where for 95% of that race, you're pretty much side by side with somebody. At some points 3 wide, at very occasionally we saw 4 wide, I think, at certain points as well. Such close quarters racing. How do you cope with that for a very, very long haul?
Yeah, so honestly, I'm kind of used to it. I come from Oval. I was a driver in the NASCAR Coke Series last year, so I'm very much, I guess you could say, experienced in pack racing and such like that. And plus, I've also put in so many hours in the GR86 because it's honestly my favorite car on iRacing, and even after the update, I absolutely love it. So honestly, it's a blast. And pack racing, it's a lot of fun. It's what I'm used to, and hopefully I get to do more of it this season.
Well, I mean, that was exemplary in terms of the driving, just the overtaking. I think all of the drivers of the GR86 deserve a pat on the back for just keeping it clean majority of times and just giving us some great racing. And Laguna Seca, I think you'll agree with me, has even more opportunity to get that type of racing.
Yeah, absolutely. And plus, there's a chance of rain for Laguna Seca, I think I saw. So, A, hopefully I didn't spoil anything. But B, that's going to be, if it ends up raining, that's going to be a lot of fun because the throwing around the 86 in the rain is probably one of the top 3 things you can do on iRacing, in my personal opinion.
Amazing. Well, hopefully we do see you there. Congratulations on what was A, a very well executed victory, and B, a very exciting victory in the GR86 class. And it looked very fun from the commentary box. I'm sure it's very fun out on the circuit as well.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, and we'll wish you the best of luck. He's already gone. I never get the opportunity to say best of luck to people. They always jump right out before I get to offer my pleasantries. But John, as we head into next week, spoke a little bit about Laguna Seca, how much adjustment, just finally, our driver's going to have to make for a track like this of Road America to Laguna Seca, which is incredibly technical, incredibly tight, and incredibly undulating as well. Lots of changes in camber.
Yeah, I was just thinking the change in elevation and the bumpiness of the curbs as well can really catch you out. It's another track where the off tracks are either dust or gravel, so you've got to be really, really cautious about how you go for overtakes. You can lose a lot of time. The barriers are very close as well, and I think the major problem is going to be actually seeing the different car classes. If you're in an IndyCar, you're approaching a blind crest or a blind turn. You've got to sort of predict where you think other people are going to be, and that's almost a science that can't happen, basically.
100%. Well, should be pretty darn exciting, shouldn't it? Hopefully you've enjoyed the show that we put on tonight, and will equally enjoy the show that is coming in 7 days' time. Make sure you check out all the Creator Series channels and the iRacing channels as well. Been a pleasure to bring this series to you to kick off round number 1 for season number 3. John, just very quickly on the social medias, where can people find you at if they want to see what you're up to?
Well, you can find me crashing into Ryan L83 in the F1 series. Everything apart from that is amusing at the moment, and I'll be enjoying a very cold Monte Carlo now for the moment this weekend.
Yes, if you missed the very start, John is currently in a field in the middle of nowhere in a camper van. I mean, going to great lengths to help us bring this series to your TVs, your monitors, your phones, whatever it is you're watching on today. If you're interested in what I'm doing, Wilco.com's on TikTok and Instagram, and he always hates when we do it. So Gareth Allen, shout him out, producing behind the scenes. Very good job, as always. But until next week, what a start we've had to season number 3, kicking off with an absolute bang. And I'm sure at Laguna Seca, which is, well, going to be quite a technical and maybe titanic tussle throughout. That should be an absolute barnstormer to keep that bar going even higher. Until then, enjoy the rest of your weeks, and we will see you very, very soon. Good night.